If any of the 8 people waiting on YouTube are waiting here now as well, it's going live right now. Thank you, Gifler. Thank you, Musket. Thank you, Toby, for the 13, 18, and 20 months, respectively. Thank you, Misfit7, for the 17 months as well. Welcome back, everyone. Man of his word. Yep. Always here exactly when I intend to be, give or take an hour. So, the plan for today is... no way Seppi made it 2 free streams. Proud of you, Seppu. So the plan for today is we are less than 24 hours away from the start of the Esports World Cup, the biggest event of the year. In my opinion, I think in a lot of people's opinions as well, certainly in terms of prize money. Maybe it's not the end of the year, but I mean, it's the biggest tournament. I think all the teams take this one the most seriously because of that bigger payday, bigger prize money type thing. There's more teams at this event than any other, so I think a lot of reasons to really treat this as the biggest event. So, well, biggest event of the year. And yeah, so by this time tomorrow, we'll be like halfway through day 1. So I think, yeah, really exciting. So what I want to do today is take a bit of time to talk through the teams, the format, and then, so the order we'll do things in is we'll probably talk about the format first and maybe a little bit of Scrimbucks mixed in there, and we'll talk about the meta and what to expect. I think there's not going to be an easy answer to the meta, but we'll sort of get to that when we get to that. Then we'll talk a little bit about all of the teams. We'll probably talk about some teams more, some teams less. Sorry to the smaller regions. Then we'll do a bracket prediction, and then we will do... what am I forgetting? Then we'll do fantasy, of course. Yeah, you guys are looking for fantasy. So then we'll do my fantasy. So some of these bits I have more of a clear idea of what I want to do. And some of the bits, like maybe the predictions and the fantasy, I have ideas, but I've not really thought it through that much. So we're gonna sort of figure those ones out live. I'm going to do... I've got like about 3 hours till I need to go out, and then I need to go food shopping, make dinner, make sure I have enough food and stuff for the busy week ahead. But, yeah. So we got 3 hours, but that should be plenty of time. We'll start at the beginning. We'll start with a format. Thank you, Hadouken King, for the 15 months. I'm not going to be in Paris, no. I'm going to be here in this room that you see me in now for all of it. Me going to be casting alongside Unter. OWTV will be on site though, so I've already got... Wait, can I show you this? Can you see this? I can give you maybe a sneak preview. It's media day right now for the players at the Esports World Cup. So they are currently, you know, filming interviews, having their photo taken, looking all pretty, getting their hair and makeup done, making sure they look their best for their big shoot. And OWTV, we got people on the ground there as well. And they've been doing some videos. We've had pretty limited time today, but we are making some short type content. So a little preview. Maybe you recognise some of these names. Maybe you recognise some of the people. We'll be getting more of those together, and those will be coming out throughout the week. Combination of some Overwatch questions, some fun questions, and then all throughout the actual tournament itself, we'll be getting interviews with the players sort of before game, after game, kind of wherever we can. So stay tuned for all of that. Stay tuned for that. Yeah, but without, I guess, too much further ado. But it's CJ dirty with that framing. We can fix it in post. People asking about the interviews. We got the interviews we can. Obviously, lots of teams busy and moving and everything like that. So we're going to be at the event itself. So I'm sure we'll get a chance to speak to a lot of the team and players as well, you know. This is probably case in point here, right? Like, we wouldn't have got Kev to talk to us before the game, but we can just grab him for 5 minutes while we're at the venue. So do not worry. And again, if you have a problem with players not doing interviews, it's not me you have to complain to. It's for players. But let's not get bogged down with that. Let's talk format, right? Let's talk format. So, if you don't already know, 16 teams are going to go in, and they're going to be split into 2 groups of 8. They've already done that, so these are our 2 groups of 8. Group A at the top, which everyone says is the tougher group, and everybody is right on this occasion. And Group B, which is a bit more top-heavy. You know, it's got Crazy Raccoon and Zeta Division, but it should be easier for some of these maybe mid-table teams to actually find their way out compared to Group A. And what they're going to do is they're going to play a double elim bracket, distinct from each other. And the top 4 teams from each group will go through. So if you win 2 games... Can you see my pen? You can see my pen. If you win 2 games, you go through, you qualify. Same here. You win 2 games, you go through, you qualify. Likewise, if you might have to battle your way through loser bracket, sort of ping-pong your way through. But as long as you don't lose 2 games, you will get through to the next round. The big caveat that you've probably heard people talking about already is... It's all first to 2. Every single match in this group stage is first to 2, which means it's fucking scary. It's really, really scary. Oh my god, you better be good at cough. You better be good at cough. Imagine not being good at cough. We'll talk about how that might affect some of the teams in more detail when we talk about the teams specifically, but it's going to mean it's going to be high stakes. It's a bit rubbish, if I'm being honest with you, but... we will at least get a wide range of different teams and different regions playing against each other. Okay, so the top 8 teams go out, and they'll sort of qualify in a fairly, there'll be like a top 2 and a bottom 2 from each group, right? So the top 2 is obviously the ones who go through the upper bracket, and the bottom 2 are the ones that go through the lower bracket. Where's my pen? My pen was too small, now it's too big. All right, and that's going to be important as we come to playoffs. Because what's going to happen, we're going to get our 2 top teams from Group A, our 2 bottom teams from Group A, 2 top teams from Group B, 2 top teams from Group B, and the question is, they're all going to go into this single elimination bracket. Top 8, single elimination, nice and easy bracket to understand. There will be a 3rd place match, which will be a bit meh, but they're going to show something on a Sunday. The important thing, though, is how do they seed the teams going into these groups? So they're going to seed them not completely randomly, but the matches will be random. So they're going to take the... What's the easiest way to write this? So the 2 top teams... That's a P. from Group A. And the 2 top teams from Group B. And then... and then they will take the bottom teams. I won't write it all out again, but you guys will probably get the idea. And then these teams there'll be a draw to basically see which teams play against each other. So the draw is not completely random, but it does mean there's probably a pretty distinct difference in terms of coming through the upper bracket in groups and coming through the lower bracket in groups in terms of the level of opponent we'll see. I'll do a full bracket prediction later, but obviously if you end up coming for teams we expect to go through like the top end of a bracket, might be your Twisted Minds, your Crazy Raccoon, your Zeta Division, so let's say Zeta Division, Crazy Raccoon, Twisted Minds, and VP, right? Let's just do EMEA, Korea top 2. Say they're your top 4 groups. If you're one of those lower bracket games, which one of those 4 teams do you want to face? None of them. Absolutely none of them, right? Obviously, it can't actually work out in that way, but we'll get to that later. So, yeah, actually quite important. All of them, Freaky Guys Brave. So, so is a level of importance on these group stage games, even though some teams will qualify quite quickly. The other benefit of qualifying in the upper bracket is you actually get Friday off. Who doesn't want a Friday off? A chance to see the other teams, a chance to rest, reset, everything like that. So lots of, surprisingly enough, this is going to be one of my hotter takes maybe of the entire preview, but it's better to win your games. It's better to win your games. You'll get some kind of benefit. Is it not necessarily? What do you mean? Some have Thursday off instead of Friday. Oh, okay. But you get a day off either way. So, all right. That's probably all we need to know format-wise. Maybe the other thing, and this one is a little bit convoluted, so try and follow me on it. Because one thing that's going to be true when we get to playoffs, you might ask who gets first map pick in some of these first games. Actually, in the first games, it's going to be obvious, right? Because there'll be a winner, and there'll be like upper bracket team from groups and a lower bracket team from groups. But who gets map pick in these later games if, say, the 2 upper bracket teams meet again? I'll read this out to you because it's a little convoluted, okay? So bear with me. If we need to figure out who seeding is, and it's not obvious from what's happened in the actual bracket itself so far, A priority will be awarded in accordance with the following, the following list of, I guess, like tier breaks or Okay, so the highest placement in group stage, which is obviously the obvious one, right? Or thank you, Red Eyes, for 25 months.
Zero, my fine fellow, how are you on this spiffing day?
So who has the highest placement in group stage? But obviously they could both be upper bracket, and then we are tied. In the case that they are tied, the lowest average group strength defined as the lowest average number of all seeds in an individual group when compared between tied teams based on seeding as set forth in. It says in 8.2.2.1, but that's just refers to a different part of the rules. So what does that mean in English? What does that mean in English? That basically means they'll take the cumulative number of the seeds from the teams in the group, right? And if you want to see these are the seeds. Let me hide the roster so you can see that. These are the seeds, right? So whichever group has the lowest combination of numbers, the cumulative is 8.5 for both. Okay, so, all right. They add up to 8.5 in both, which I guess means W seeding. So then the next tiebreaker is the team from the group with the lowest pool number 1 seed allocated to their group. If that makes sense. Which would be... the team with the group, I told you this would take some figuring out. The team from a group with the lowest pool number 1 seed allocated to their group. Does that mean... Somebody call a lawyer, because, so number 1 seeds we have in each group. That bit we can figure out easy. We have VP 1, we have Weibo 1, we have Dallas 3. Okay? And then here we have Zeta Division. How do they determine Crazy Raccoon, though? Like, a Crazy Raccoon a number 1 seed or not? I'll paste the rule in chat. Maybe it might be one of those that's easier to see. Like, it's easier to read than it is to... Easier to read than it is to hear. So, we also have 3 days to figure that out. So we can cross that bridge when we come to it. Required reading for the class. Exactly. Everyone's got some homework for this one. Unfortunately. Still fucking undecipherable? Good. Alright. So, there is a rule in place to decide who gets the first pick. But we're not sure of it. Yeah, I think you might be right, Toby. That's what I thought originally. That's what I said to you yesterday, Artemis, but then you told me all 8 teams this morning. Because that's potentially easier to figure out then, and will be more likely to be different. So, to catch everyone up for those who don't have chat open, so what the second tiebreaker is, so we'll start from top again. So, 3 tiebreakers to figure out who gets first map pick, and then... if you come from the upper bracket of groups and you're playing a team that came from the lower bracket of groups, the upper bracket team gets first map pick. That's what's going to happen in all of these first games. That makes sense. But let's say 2 upper bracket teams run into each other. Then what's going to happen is they will take the average seed from the 4 teams qualified out of each group. So if I give you an example, let's say Dallas Fuel, Weibo, Falcons... and who else is in that group? Team Liquid qualify, right? So that would be 9, 20, 33 divided by 4. 33 divided by 4 is 8.25. And then they would do the same for the other group from the 4 teams that qualified, and whichever group has the lowest number should be the more difficult group in theory, and therefore they get the map advantage. But I guess we're not going to be able to figure that out until we know which 4 teams are coming out of each group. Hopefully that... Thanks, Max. Does that make sense? Hopefully that... I know there was a little convoluted on the way there, but hopefully we got somewhere that kind of makes sense. Essentially, to simplify, if it needs sort of simplifying more, basically, at the end of Friday, we'll be able to figure out which group will get the seed in the case of a tie. And then we can just go, oh, it's Group A or it's Group B. So on Friday, we can figure it out. Is it upper bracket from Group A versus lower bracket from Group B? Oh, well, actually, yes. The other thing that's worth mentioning... Wait, is the stream dying? Hello, hello? Hello? It's fine. Stream good. Okay. To answer your question, Mel's, it starts at 11 a.m., I want to say. 11 a.m. BST. So that would be 3 hours and 12 minutes ago, but tomorrow. Okay, that's a bit odd. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, the other thing about when they do this seeding for playoffs, and we're going to have, you know, the top 2 from Group A, top 2 from A, and the top 2 from B, and the bottom 2 from A, and the bottom 2 from B, and they're going to play each other in some way, you don't get put into... You don't match with a team from your same group. So basically, these 2 teams will play these 2 teams, and these 2 teams will play these 2 teams, but who plays which one is random. So, yeah. Hopefully that bit's a little bit easier to understand. And that bit all seems to make sense, right? So we get as many different matchups as possible. So that bit all seems fairly reasonable. All right. So, boring, convoluted tournament bit. Understood? It's somewhat random. So yes, sir. It's all right. We'll explain it as we go through as well. I don't know, Max. I didn't watch it. It's like half random. So TLDR, if you are Max, is all the upper bracket teams will be seeded in like the top half of seeds, and they will play all the lower bracket teams. But that part of it is randomized, so you don't know which one is going to go where. All right. The other thing to talk about, obviously, is... Yeah, what I'll do, tedious task, for anyone who's just turned up, the general run of it is we'll do the format, which I think we've mostly finished now. The only other thing to mention is the map pool, but the map pool is there. You can look at the map pool and see and make your own judgments about that. I'll do a little bit where I talk about maybe the meta that we're going to see, and then we'll sort of talk about each team to varying degrees, and then I'll do bracket prediction, and then I'll do fantasy with whatever time's left, and maybe if I run out of time, I'll finish it tomorrow. But we'll see how we go. Yeah, so a lot of people don't really like the map pool, maybe especially the Escort and Hybrid feel really scary. By scary, I mean rubbish. Neon Junction is probably the map you should expect to see all the time. Expect to see so much Neon Junction, probably a lot of Shambali as well. Yeah, they're probably going to be the ones dominating a lot. Everything else, I think, might actually be fairly balanced and we'll see a decent variety of. But I expect to see a lot of Neon Junction especially. Oh, thank you, Net, for the 5 months.
Wishing you good luck ahead of the ungodly amount of talking required this weekend.
Thank you, Net. Why does everyone hate the map pool? I mean, just a map pool is a map pool. I don't think it makes any difference. I think there's like good maps for both styles of comps on here, or all the different types of comps. But maybe it's a good time. That's a good segue to talk about the meta as well.
Just got
Thank you,
an ad,
Jabba.
I was startled. Can't be having that.
Don't worry, you're safe now, Jabba. So typically, maybe I feel like it happens less and less in Overwatch now. Like we quite often talk about metas, and the idea is like there's one dominant comp that everyone plays everywhere all the time, and I think that's not really going to be true. I think we'll probably see a lot of similar archetypes of comps. It's probably going to be brawl heavier. But there's going to be lots of different versions of this, from ones that are maybe slower and control-y, ones that are maybe really pokeable, like slow, pokey, high damage type ones, and we'll get ones that are your more classic, it's a Lucio, let's go fast, let's smash some stuff type brawl. So I think we'll see that in sort of all its variations. I think the heroes now have been... maybe I'll write them out as I go.
Fuck you, Chris.
Whoa, thank you, Katsukia, for the gifted tier 1 to Unterfilled. Thank you, Jabber, if you're back from ads now as well. A treasure train has started as well. I don't really know what that means. But if anyone... Oh, wait, reach level 2 to get 35% off gifted subs? We're at 93%! Wow, you guys go on a treasure quest. I'll tell you what heroes we should probably expect to see lots of. Thank you many days late for the 18 months.
W treasure.
Thank you, biggest boy, for the 6 months. Thank you for the giant Aga as well. The Aga fat. how have you got that Aga fat so big? Thank you, Psycho Shiro, for the 22 months.
Dance?
Can we get a preview for marbles? No, we will be doing a fair amount of marbles as well over the weekend. Don't worry. Thank you, Big Small.
Preview of the marbles. Play.
Are you in Paris for it, Big Small? That's class. I feel like loads of people are going to Paris. Probably because we've got a lot of Europeans here.
Greetings from Paris, excited for you.
All right, let me write down these heroes, or we'll never start. But keep seeking for treasure, guys. Never stop seeking treasure. All right, so tanks we're probably going to see a lot of. We're going to see a lot of everyone's favourite.
Fuck you, Chris.
Ram. Everyone likes Ram. Thank you, Hilarion, for the gifted tier 1 to Payback as well. Thank you very much. Ram. Everyone loves Ram. Mrs. Ramatra loves Ram in a very special way. Mauga, everyone loves Mauga, right? No one's ever complained about Mauga, so we're gonna have Mauga. I reckon we're gonna still see Sigma, maybe less than we've seen.
There's something about this middle-aged
no way.
That is thrilling.
Thank you, Forside. That's incredible. 20 gifted. Thank you very much. Congratulations to everyone who got one. We're gonna get so much treasure, guys. There's actually gonna be so much treasure at the end of this road. Thank you, Forside. I appreciate it a lot. Congratulations, everyone. What other heroes? Diva. But I don't think we're going to see that much Diva. I think, we might see more Diva. More than Diva. I think we're going to see more Rhine than Diva. That's my prediction. We're going to see more Rhine than we will Diva. Blessed. The other things... Scream if you love Brawl. Thanks, Big Small. Who doesn't?
Scream if you love Brawl slop.
I reckon we're going to see an incredibly small amount of Winston. Really incredibly small amount of Winston. I reckon... What am I forgetting? What other heroes are there that we might see? Domina. Unironically, I think we'll see some Domina. I don't think a lot of teams are going to do it, but I think a couple of teams, maybe Koreans are going to do it a bit of. And Ball as well. I think there'll be some Ball. Obviously, as always, Ball will be kind of map specific. But I think this, I'd probably put like... Whoa. Thank you, Katsukia.
Cheer minus 300 bits.
Thank you for the bits. Thank you, guys. My God, we're up to level 6 already. Close to level 7. And then I think all this other stuff becomes like either certain teams will play it or... certain teams will play it, or maybe we'll see it in like specific maps or something like this. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's sort of like a Ram, Mauga, Sigma, lots of different versions of that in a lot of situations. Maybe, yeah. Well, obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if he like a Kuffer Hazard or something if things aren't going right. I wouldn't be shocked at that. In terms of DPS, we're going to see. Am I going to run out of space? I might run out of space. I'll try and squeeze them down here. Let's start sectioning stuff off. So, in terms of flex DPS, it's pretty fucking wide open. You know, I think Sim is going to be integral for a lot of teams. I think May will see a good amount of. I think we'll see a fair number of teams do some Shion in this slot as well. Pharah. Vendetta. Vendetta in very small amounts, though. Reaper. I think Reaper also on the smaller side. I think the amount of Reaper we see will probably be very much connected to the amount of Mauga we see. The more Mauga we see, the more Reaper we'll see type thing. But I probably, like, Sim, May, Shion, maybe the ones I would expect to see the most. I reckon we'll see a bit of Tracer, but not loads. No Sierra. Hit scans. Hit scans, I reckon we'll see quite a lot of variety. I think Freya is, like, really, really viable again. Really possible we'll see a huge amount of that. And that's Pharah above Vendetta. But I think Freya, obviously we'll still see Cass. We'll still see Sojourn. We'll see Shion used in these ones as well, especially if people are on like the sort of, you know, Ooga Booga go fast type stuff. And yeah, we'll still see Bastion. I think we'll see Ground Bastion. We'll see a teeny tiny bit of Cat Bastion. That's a J. That's a J. I mean, that's a bit easier to see. Soldier? No, Soldier. And I reckon we'll see actually a pretty big variety of Lord-Knows hit scans as well. I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually a fairly balanced amount of, well, out of the hit scans on your screen, we actually see a fairly balanced amount of all of them. In terms of supports, let me think. Maybe I'll do supports all together because I feel like we'll see. Hold your breath. Kiri. Loads of fucking Kiri. We'll see quite a lot of Lucio still. Not as much as when he's just played in every comp, but I think we'll still see a large amount of Lucio. I think we'll still see the Mizuki. I think we will still see Cat. I think we'll see more Cat without Bastion than we do see Cat with Bastion. I think Brig actually has like a fairly big place here. Maybe more for some teams than others. Ooh, a hype. Hold on. I have a hype chest to open. Rewards? Honk shoe? What is that? I like sleeping. Choo choo honk shoe. What did you guys get? You got Winnie, huh? Class. What was I saying? Yeah, more Cat without Bastion than we will see with Bastion, though I do think we will still see Cat Bastion in some places, but maybe a little bit more map dependent. Honkshu traded. I think this will probably make up the bulk of it, unless I'm forgetting something. Am I forgetting something? What other heroes? Then there'll be other stuff. I think like maybe like Juno, Wu Yang, maybe even bits of Alari still. I think we'll all make appearances. I don't think we'll see huge amounts of them, but I think maybe Anna, yeah, maybe bits of Anna, especially on like the routes for Junkertown's type map, you know. One thing that I think a lot of teams do, we did it on GB as well, is the idea of like ban Kiri, play Anna. So I think that's viable. But I think these ones are going to be mainly used just on specific maps where it's good, or if, say, Lucio is banned, maybe someone will play Juno instead type thing. Other than that, maybe Baptiste will fall into the same category. Like, if Kiri is banned, maybe people will play Baptiste instead. So we might see a few more heroes. A few more heroes come in those situations, but I think if you ask me, like, to try and define the meta, I probably think, like, Ram, Mauga, Sigma, Sim, Mei, maybe Shion in there. The hit scans are all whatever, you know, like, shoot stuff. And then, like, Kiri, Lucio, maybe Mizuki, maybe Cat. I think we'll see. To be honest, I think we're going to see pretty good variety. You know, like I think there's going to be a pretty good variety of stuff. It might not. You're not going to get like maybe as extreme archetypes like when you get to see, like when Twisted would play Sim against all of these other teams, all of like the dive teams and stuff. But I think we'll see a good variety of different types of brawl, and we probably won't end up in too many complete mirrors. Maybe that'll change as it always does when tournaments go on, because it's quite a long tournament as well, right? You know, like, think about, like, how popular Mizuki Kiri got in the previous one. So, yeah. That's kind of... I'm going to use the word meta. I know I've listed a billion fucking heroes, but I think this is the sort of stuff we're going to see mostly. Pink underlined for ones we'll probably see more of. Okay, so... everyone with me so far? Format covered, meta covered. Then we'll talk about some of the teams. I'll talk about all the teams, but as you can imagine, some of the teams are probably going to be a little bit less interesting than others. So, I figure we'll start from the bottom and end at the top. So... all right, this first one will be kind of easy because it's 9Z. So I'll give you like a little bit of context here, but spoiler warning, these guys probably aren't going to win a map. So you might recognize a few of these players like Clear and Hydron and stuff like that. They're the South American representation. It was a really messy, they like crushed playoffs. They only lost one map, I think, in playoffs, this 9Z team. Their regular season was littered with a load of teams just forfeiting against them, which I guess is nature of South American FACEIT, unfortunately. In terms of plays you might be aware of, the backline is the Chilean backline. LCS, if anyone watched the open qualifiers with me, I remember LCS actually looking kind of good on the Kiri. They did, but for context, they did ultimately also finish third behind USA and Mexico. Expectations in terms of starters, bench players is that Tizzy, who also had some nice moments in those qualifiers, but finished fourth with Argentina. He'll be on the bench, and Bert, who was also part of a Chilean team, will also be on the bench, with Clear, Hydron, and Light, the expected starters, who are all players who feel, you know, super strong for their region, but I think big picture, now this is the Esports World Cup, the biggest tournament of the year, like realistically, I don't think Clear's ever made a meaningful impact on any tournament near this scale, you know, maybe a few nice cameos in Pacific type thing. Hydron probably is their best player, but also past his prime, and also I don't think I'd actually rate Hydron above any of the other hit scans at this tournament either. So yeah, they're gonna be bad, they're not gonna win a map. We could do a whole bit about... thank you, Vera, for the 27 months. We could do a whole bit about does South America deserve a spot at the Esports World Cup, but ultimately I think kind of no, but also the Esports World Cup is an event that prides itself, pun intended, on bringing teams from across the world. So they're probably going to keep inviting South America, and there's probably not really anything to be done about that, so... whatever, it's there's probably not too much more to say about them. They're going to lose all their games. All right, Team Secret are a team, the Pacific entry. You'll probably be way more familiar with a lot of these guys. These guys are, you know, like Pacific stars. Obviously, Kufa is the star amongst those stars.
Who else
the
on
constellation?
the Eurostar Paris RN?
Thank you, Yamiro, for the 7 months. You get what I'm saying, though. Kufa, I think, is the big lead. I think, one, Firstly, it's super cool that Team Secret are sponsoring a team in Pacific. I know Team Secret, obviously, probably from their big Dota teams at various like international events, or as in the International, as in TI. So it's super cool to see them in Pacific. I think on top of that, you know, they won that grand finals. They were 3-1 down. They went on to win 4-3. They were having all sorts of like ping and disconnect issues. If you want to hear the full story, go watch the Kuffer interview on OWTV, because he tells, you know, their comeback, for fuck it, we're not going to lose type stuff. So actually, you know, they've got heart, right? We know they've got heart. They've also now got Gumba helping them out, and we all know Gumba is good at coaching Overwatch. So, you know, there's reasons you can kind of like this team, right? Reasons to like Kuffer, reasons to like a lot of these other players as well, like Soggy, High Vision, Parley. These players who have been around for, ages in Pacific. I think as well, probably those DPS like Soggy and High Vision probably are like the stars of the team alongside Kuffer. The only worry I would maybe have is there's maybe kind of the same thing we said about Hydron, right? Whereas like High Vision probably is really dominant within the region, but once we get to this scale and this level, how many hit scans are you really rating High Vision above? Hydron. You know. Soggy as well, I think, is a super talented player. I don't know if he'll really get to play too many of his best heroes. You know, we talked a little bit about Tracer's limitations, or how much Tracer we should really expect to see. So I don't know really how often they'll be able to get Soggy onto his best heroes. I don't know if he'll end up playing a lot of Pharah for a bunch of this. What is probably worth saying is, if there's one thing you can always say about Goomba teams, they always do something, right? They always try something. They're not just going to sort of meta slave or go out with something they don't think they have a chance to win on. They will always try and cause some sort of difficult situation or a problem for the enemy team to deal with. So I think that's good. I think the fact that Ram is really good is obviously great for Kuffer. I think that's probably... Maybe Hazard is his best hero, but I put Ram right up there as well. So I think that's good for them. So maybe they can lean into that in some of these situations. I'd maybe be a little bit worried about the backline. Just think they're gonna come up against a lot of stiff composition, even in Group B. Even though Group B is a bit easier, right? They're still going to be put under a decent amount of scrutiny. So yeah, ultimately for Team Secret, the big silver lining is that they are in the easier group. I think every team in this Group B, you know, like everyone expects Crazy Raccoon to go through, everyone expects Data Division to go through, everyone actually expects GK to go through. I think if you are one of these other teams, you know, the Secret, the Varel, AG, JD, SSG might be the favourite on paper, but we'll talk about more SSG later. But kind of, there's a chance, right? There's about as good a chance as you can get to get top 8 at a major event. And remember, if we look at prize pool, top 8 will get you 35 grand instead of, 20 grand, which is nothing to be sniffed at. So, yeah, is this probably Pacific team's best chance to maybe get, like, top 8 at a major? Probably, actually, in terms of how the groups have gone and the sort of team they're sending, with Kuffer and Gumba, and he's like... I feel like Kuffer and Gumba are pretty big upgrades, really, compared to the options that Pacific teams normally get to bring. But... I still don't think they will. Is Gumba travelling? Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's in Paris right now. People were telling me they bumped into him yesterday. I think he's doing a whole thing. I think he's doing a whole, like... He's going to do the event, and then he's going on, like, a whole excursion around Europe. He's going to have a lovely time. What was I saying? Yeah, so meta-wise, for Ram will be good for him. Maybe if there's loads of Sim and loads of May, that's going to be bad. Oh, thank you, Payback. Thank you for the gifted tier onto Ritzy. We got like a nice... Was that like a... It was less a payback and more of a pay forward. Thank you, Big Small, for the gifted tier one as well.
There's something
OW
about
Lena.
this middle-aged bald guy that is thrilling.
I just got here. Perfect timing. So conclusion on Team Secret is, it would be kind of fun. It would be a huge moment for Pacific. And this is probably about as good a chance as they're liable to get. I just don't think they're going to be able to take it. I think JD will be better than them. I think SSG will be better than them. I think Varel will be better than them. And they have to probably beat at least 2 of those teams at some point. So I think it's a really tall ask for Team Secret. But I do expect that they'll show some fight. They'll show a few different looks, a few curveballs to these teams. One thing that's true with these 8-team groups is there's so much to prepare for. Because if you remember, the bracket flips, right? So, what's the easiest way to show you? So, like, these teams go here. But then the loser of this game goes here. And vice versa, right? So, because the bracket flips, you actually have to... But because the bracket flips and a lot of the games, the results aren't necessarily super clear, you have to do... you have to prepare for a lot of teams. So, if you're an underdog team, that probably actually helps you. Because Secret also haven't boot camped. They've just been playing from home. So, they are probably a little bit out of the meta bubble. From what everyone has been playing, you know, from other teams based in Europe at the moment. But that might actually help them. You know, if you come in with something a little bit surprising, there's a real chance you could upset someone, especially in the first to 2, right? So I think most people will agree with the sentiment that first to 2 does actually favour the underdogs. So, yeah, maybe there's something there. No, I don't know exactly, but I think quite a few teams haven't. I think none of the Chinese teams have boot camped in... I don't think Zeta have either. Or maybe they got here kind of really late. I don't think... Varel haven't. SSG haven't, but obviously SSG can play just on high ping. Yeah, I don't think any of the Chinese teams have. Weibo have, you say? Okay. I feel like I've not heard anyone talk about playing Zeta. How come they aren't boot camping despite the large prize pool? Basically, there's been a change in the way flights can get booked for these events. So previously, you kind of got a flight there and a flight back, right? And what a lot of teams would do, especially when coming to Europe, is they would boot camp in somewhere that wasn't where the event was. So, like, when we went to World Finals, Crazy Raccoon boot camped in Poland. I think T1 boot camped in Finland, maybe. A bunch of teams boot camped in England. And then they would have their flights covered to wherever they wanted. Like, one flight to Europe, one flight home type thing. Whereas now they've tightened the limit. They've tightened what you can do in terms of how you book the flights. So now you have to go to Paris and come back from Paris. You can't do anything else, which means that's changed the boot camp cost, because now all of a sudden there was like a mad scramble to find boot camps in Paris, and a lot of teams were able to. Some teams weren't able to then afford the cost of what was left available. Which is where we got a lot of the issues. Which is why, as well, when we see all of the teams boot camping, most of them are boot camping in France itself, rather than, like Team Liquid are kind of the exception, I think, in that. Maybe like Ziad and a couple of the guys went to the UK as well for GK, but I think most have just gone directly to France because of this new, I guess, policy change. So yeah, nothing exciting, boring admin reasons. Boring admin reasons and rule changes. Thank you, LOL, for the 4 months. Yo. Yeah, I think for the Chinese team, yeah, it's probably good distinction, Artemis. For the Chinese teams, I think they've just had a bunch of visa issues. GK had a massive maggot infected place? What? Somebody fill me in. What do you mean? Look it up? I feel like I don't want to look. I had lunch just before the stream. I feel like I don't want to look it up. I feel like... You don't want to see it? Yeah, I feel like there's a video, but you don't want to look at it? Yeah, alright. That's horrible. That really sucks. Fuck. That's horrendous. All right, let's move on from the maggot, shall we? Let's go. We'll go Varel next, because everybody fucking loves Varel, right? Everyone loves Japan. Japan's best hope for the longest time. They're so good. This was my favourite tidbits from the Top Dragon interview. They're so good, they don't even scrim other Japanese teams anymore. So you know you've really made it in a region where you can deem yourself literally too good to practice against any of your fellow countrymen. So that's class. There's a lot of like swelling of belief, I think, behind Varel. They took a map off Falcons at the Esports World Cup last year. They did it again this year in Asia. They beat Crazy Raccoon in the Asia playoffs in Stage 1. Obviously, hugely dubious comp selection and effort from Crazy Raccoon in that one. But after that very dubious victory, they took Zeta to 5 maps. Which, that one is much harder to cause to be dubious. So I think there's a lot of support, belief. Now, if any, is this Varel's best chance to give Japan a meaningful result at an international tournament? Yes, for all of the same reasons we said for Team Secret, right? The fact that they... well, I can... I've forgotten to do this as we go along. But I can bring up... all these articles are on OWTV. You can go and have a look as well if you want even more preview of everything. But they also have these stat graphics, which I found quite interesting. So you can sort of have a little browse of them. I feel like my camera might be in a really awful place for this. So where can I... If I put myself here, right? You guys... Put myself on the other side. It's a little scuffed, but maybe that's easier to see, right? Oh, thank you, Mama is Mama, for the 4 months. So as you can see from Varel, this is why they don't scrim over Japanese teams. Because I think they only lost 1 New Junk City at one time. So Varel's super dominant regionally. I'll leave these graphics up. I'll do this as we talk through the teams. So you can sort of have a peruse. You can also see the ban ones as well, but as no surprise here, they also win most of the ban situations. So there's all the same reasons we talked about Team Secret. The group is slightly easier, that SSG maybe feel more vulnerable than they ever have done. I think this is their best chance. I think there's a lot of reasons to like Varel. Like the Japanese core that have been around forever, who had those cool sort of performances at the 2023 World Cup. I remember we shared like a practice room with them. They were super loud, but they're all super sound. So really enjoyed, being at the World Cup with those guys. Top Dragon and Slee are the stars, right? Top Dragon brings all the talent on a huge variety of heroes. He'll be able to play stuff like the Mei as well. I don't know how strong he'll be on the sim, but he'll have heroes he can play in this meta that he can thrive on. And he also brings all the leadership to the team. He's learnt Japanese and he main calls a team in a different language, which is also just fucking nuts. I can barely order a sandwich in French, let alone main call in another language. So much time for him and everything he's done for Varel. And I think Slee to a degree as well, but especially Top Dragon, I think he's the one that has really made it feel possible for Varel to do something on the international stage. So I think he deserves a lot of credit. Slee as well, of course. I think he plays a lot of double flex support heroes. He'll play like Wu Yang, Cat, Ilari, these type of things, and that kind of informs a lot of the comps they play as well. But I think a lot of the comps they play, if they want to do that, will be kind of viable, and Slee maybe gives them a slightly different look. And again, similar to Team Secret, where they've just been in Japan preparing, it might mean they are out of the scrim bubble. But maybe they just have something a little bit different. Maybe no one's going to be surprised that they're on double flex support, but maybe some of the other teams they go up against in these group haven't played against it that recently or something. And again, first to 2 makes it all so volatile. You get caught by something unexpected in first to 2. It's just killer, right? It's just killer. So I think this is Varel's best chance. If you're going to put, a gun to my head, and I really hope you guys don't put too many guns to my head, but if you put me a gun to my head and say, will Varel qualify? Will they make it out of groups? No. I don't think they will do it. I don't think they'll do it. But this is their best chance, right? This is their best chance. So you never know. Unsubscribe. I'll be streaming from home, Linux. So I don't know. Yeah, there's so many reasons to like Varel, but I just don't think they're good enough to beat some of these other teams. Mainly SSG and JD are the big ones. Then our next seeded team, if you can believe it, our 13th seed. Our 13th seed at this tournament is the mighty Team Falcons. Let me get you the Falcons map stats there, so you have a little peruse. So, Falcons. What a wank year from Team Falcon so far, huh? They didn't qualify for Champions Clash. They finished 5th, 6th in Stage 2, losing to Zanside. They lost 4-2 to Zanside. And they've been completely saved by the fact that they are the current title defenders of the Esports World Cup. So... oh yeah, that one is wrong. We'll glaze over that. I'll fix that in post. Wait, where's my pen? There's my pen. Wait, white? No, I'll do it in pink. There we go. I fixed it. What was I saying? Yeah, so complete wank from them this year, right? They've been saved by this. Their stage 2 was disappointing. There's a tiny bit of cope, right? That Merit was injured at the end of stage 2, so they were playing Spin and Checkmate, and therefore having to play sort of, you know, square peg round hole compositions and force stuff, and Spin was having to fill in on Cass and stuff like this. But I think, despite all of that, you can maybe excuse for stage 2 playoffs because of that, right? But everything else has been rubbish too. They didn't win when they had Merit in stage 2. They didn't win particularly in stage 1. You know, questions were always going to be asked when Proper and Stalker left the team, right? And then Checkmate came in. But I feel like Checkmate's been kind of dreadful, right? For a guy who was in 2 grand finals last year. How disappointing, right? He was meant to make Falcons the sim team of EMEA. Or of EMEA, sorry, of Korea. But it's not worked, has it? It's not worked. Junkbug, Checkmate, we're going to be the sim team. They're going to be the sim team. They're going to have their own style. Could it work? Apparently not. The best sim team is now Crazy Raccoon. Crazy Raccoon. They weren't meant to be the sim team. But yeah. So I don't know. So that's hugely disappointing so far from them. I think Spin has come into the team and he's not exactly had the best environment to thrive in. But I don't think Spin has had the impact they were hoping for or needed. I think, to be fair to Spin, he deserves more time. I think that is really fair that he gets more time out of this one. And hopefully he can put a good show in here because he seems like the sort of player you want, you know, in terms of young, upcoming player. But, yeah, massively disappointing from them. So, there's nothing we've seen in matches that should make you a Falcons believer. Nothing at all. But one is the Esports World Cup, right? And in stage 2 last year, do you know where Falcons finished? In stage 2, they finished 5th and 6th in Korea, had a little detour through the LCQ, and came all the way back. And then on top of this, you know, because past, you know, precedent doesn't always mean it's going to happen again. But it is undeniable that these are seasoned pros who do play better with pressure, with high stakes, everything like this. And as we talked about at the start, right, it's for most money, biggest tournament of the year, you know, like, if you're going to be good for one tournament of the year, if you're going to lock in for one tournament of the year, it should be this one. And also, they came over to boot camp in France pretty early, and they sort of came with their own look, which has maybe fallen off a little bit by now, but I'll kind of talk you through some of it. So their own look was a bit of like Ram, Tracer, Sojourn, Brig, Kiri, which feels like a very weird comp on paper. I can give you maybe like a teeny tiny, I won't get too nitty gritty about it, but basically, it was a pretty unique style that I think relied on a lot of individual good decision making. But you'd kind of have a few groups. You'd have like a Ram Kiri group, then you would have your Brig Tracer group, and your Sojin was kind of also free to either take their own flank, play with the main stack, or also go on this. And it was really flank heavy. And I think this comp, what it was designed to beat, and what I think it maybe does beat, is the Mizuki Kiri. Like the Mizuki Kiri Sigma, I think that comp and that style was quite effective against that. I think it runs into more problems when teams start playing Sim against it and teams start playing Lucio against it. I think it's weak to both of those. But as a solution to a Sig, Brig, Mizzy comp, I think it might kind of work. And on top of this, I had the luxury, the privilege, whatever you want to call it. I got to see a little bit of it as well. And it was a unique style, and it felt like the comp on paper should be weak to Lucio, weak to Sim, which I think has ultimately transpired to be true. But what was also really true when I watched those Falcons matches, or scrims, is they kind of looked insane. Like, it looked... Individually, they looked like they were back to their best, right? Someone on Ram was nuts. He was so good. He looked... So, I don't know. Will the Falcons just turn up at the Esports World Cup, play someone on Ram and win again? Maybe they won't win. But they're going to... I think they're going to do way better than anything we've seen from them this year. I think Chio was absolutely... Like, some of the most insane Brig players I've ever seen. From Chio. I think Spin was playing really well. I think Merit was playing really well. So, I don't know. I don't think that comp is the best comp. I think it only beats maybe the Sig Mizuki Kiri comp, which isn't necessarily enough. But obviously, the most annoying thing to play Ram into is the Sig Mizzy Kiri. So if they've got a way to beat the Sig Mizzy Kiri with Ram still, that's actually like a really useful thing to have. So yeah. The biggest takeaway I had is maybe they have a good comp solution for one of their specific problems. And also, just the fact that all the players were playing individually really well, right? The fact that they were playing a comp that required every individual to make smart decisions and good decisions in the moment. It's like a confidence booster, right? I think their scrim results might have faded a little bit from like the early, these guys are the best, whatever. But I think they've got their mojo back. Not to just go down a whole nother Austin Powers bit, but I think they've got their mojo back. Because all these players are good. All these players are experienced. All these players have won stuff before, maybe Spin exception. A bit of confidence, a meta where they can play some of their best heroes. You never know, right? You never know. If these guys find form, we all know they're good players. And I think they might have found form. So, does this mean they're going to win the Esports World Cup? Are they going to do it again? I actually don't think so. I think especially, and we'll get to them, we'll talk in more detail later, but I think Crazy Raccoon and Twisted Minds are just too good. Now, even if Falcons have a bit of a resurgence, they won't win. But they're going to do a hell of a lot better than 13th, right? Like, I can see them making it out of groups. I can see them going top 8, and depending who they get in top 8, you know, especially if they go, like, the upper bracket route. Because, remember, their sort of subsection of a bracket, that's kind of a nice subsection, you know what I mean? Right? So, I think Falcons will make top 8 for sure. I think there's a real chance they actually make top 4 in this event. I think Falcons are back, in my humble opinion. Okay. Now, obviously, as we go up the seeding, we come on to the mighty AG. Top 4 is good. Yeah, I mean, after the year Falcons have had, I think top 4 is insane. If they can do it, right? And yes, of course, rejoice everyone, for MAG has made another major event. Thank God, right? Thank God. Were any of you guys worried he wouldn't make another major? Come on. Thank you, Wanks. What a name. You guys can't see it, but that's Mr. Wanks123 said I was looking stellar in the thumbnail on YouTube. So, all right. This is probably one of the teams I'm going to have the least to say about because, they're the third seed from China. You should probably expect them to perform like the third team in China, or the third team from one of the weaker regions. Yeah. I don't know. The best part of this roster for me is probably the DPS line. Like, I quite like Eshan. I quite like Insane. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if they're actually better. I wouldn't put them as a top 10 DPS pairing in this tournament either, but maybe they are the brightest spot on the team. Liga's pretty good, but maybe it's not really a great meta to play him in. I think Diva's going to maybe struggle a little bit more. I think this team probably is at their best when Liga's in and when Lenksa is on like a non-Lucio hero. So there might be opportunity for Lenksa. The latter might be true, right? Lenksa can play a non-Lucio hero. Liga, how much Diva will he get to play? Probably not that much, I don't think. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think this team's going to do anything, honestly. Regionally. Oh, thank you, A Tree With No Leaves, for the 4 months.
Mag buff.
Oh, fuck. Mag's just been buffed. Maybe they're back. Yeah, so if they're playing Ram, if they're playing Malga, I think suddenly Liga isn't actually that strong tank player anymore compared to a lot of the others. Like domestically, I don't know how many of you guys watch China, but domestically, they basically just lost to JD at every turn. Half the time it was 3-0, half the time it was a 5-map banger, but they kind of never beat them in Stage 2. So I don't think the meta super lines up for them. I don't think we've seen anything from them domestically that makes it look like they can even challenge the top of their region, let alone the top internationally. So, I don't know. Like, no hopes for AG here. Against Secret, against Varel, I wouldn't be surprised if these guys lose against Varel. Like I would put Varel above these guys. So yeah, that's probably all I really have to say for them. But at least Mag gets another major. All right, this one might be. There's probably a lot more to dive into here in terms of Team Liquid. Because Team Liquid. Oh, the NA Super Team that hasn't really been very super yet. No, Crispy, I'm gonna do this for a bit more. I think Jamie should be a Rambo. It's been neither super nor a team. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. The additions of Attack and Kivis, has it made them better than Stage 1? Sure. But I still don't feel it made them feel as good as a team that has Tree and Zero on DPS should feel. Not at all. Not at the moment anymore, Rondo, no. Thank you, Zono, for the 8 months.
Will Na get a ring in our lifetime? Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah. Yeah, agree, Zono. Yeah, so, I don't know. I think they've improved Team Liquid for sure, right? But it's not as good as this team should be on paper. So let's do the positives first, because there's probably also a lot of potential problems to talk about. But let's do positives, okay? They beat Dallas in playoffs before losing to them. This is a promising sign. They have boot camped in Canada for the Stage 2 playoffs. They have then boot camped for a fairly lengthy time in the Netherlands. This is going to do huge work in terms of team bonding, how much they can grind and play as a team, and this is also going to be great English practice for Kivis and for Attack to improve in that department. And also, the scrimbucks for Team Liquid say they're actually pretty decent. And now I know pretty decent, if you're a big diehard Team Liquid fan, pretty decent maybe isn't the level of positivity you are hoping for, but pretty decent when most of your scrim opponents are Twisted Minds, virtus.pro, Falcons, who are doing quite well, Crazy Raccoon. Like, doing okay up against the elite teams, I think is actually good for the a team that finished third regionally in North America. Thank you, Dinosaur Cola, for the 18 months. So I think that's positive. They're kind of in the mix, right? The other thing that's good is the DPS line is genuinely world class. I think Tree, especially if Freya actually becomes a big part of the meta, very least viable, I think Tree has got to be up there with best in the world on that hero. Really, he does so much. Zera might have a little bit of a harder time having to get, say getting onto like Tracer, Genji. Maybe Vendetta is a hero he can get onto more often, something he's done very well on. So maybe it's a bit harder to get both of their best players onto their best heroes. I think they'll kind of suffer the same thing. We can maybe sort of transition into, these are kind of some of the problems they'll hit, is while Tree might get to play a lot of these best heroes, but also Tree's class at all the hit scans, so maybe it doesn't, maybe you never had to worry about Tree. But Attack is world class on D.Va, but I don't know how much D.Va he's going to get to play. Kivus is really good at Ana, but I don't know how much Ana he's going to play. Vega, really good at Alari and these type of heroes, but I don't know how much Alari he's going to play. And historically, from Liquid, they've never really been a team. While they have a team that can sort of play any composition, have a lot of flexibility, they're not really the experimental team. Or the team that play their own style in the face of everything else, right? Like, that's Dallas, right? Dallas are the kind of team that do that. Liquid probably follow the meta a little bit more, even though they have, like big hero pools to do a bit of everything. So to be successful at this event, what we need from Team Liquid is we're maybe going to have to see Zera excel at like Sim and potentially Mei. We're going to have to see Attack do really well on Ram. And we're going to have to see Kivus do really well on Kiri. Now, but Kivus has played a lot of Kiri, so maybe that one is the smallest of the worries. And Zera is super talented, so will he do well on Sim and Mei? I think the answer is yes. Can he keep up with the other top Sims? That's like maybe a harder question, but Zera's a super talented player. Attack on Ram is probably my biggest question mark. That's like my biggest worry, I think, for Team Liquid. On top of that, they've got a pretty tough group. One thing I should say, actually, is as much as those are all the worries, right? If they've been doing okay in scrims, you'd have to guess their comps kind of look a bit like that in some form, or at least on some maps. So if they're doing okay on those heroes, I guess they're doing okay on those heroes. The problem with doing okay on those heroes, and maybe only losing to pretty top teams, is a lot of those top teams are actually in your group, right? Like Twisted Minds, virtus.pro, T1, these guys are in your group. You're going to have to play them. So I think like these two things could be true simultaneously, where this is the best we've seen Liquid play all year, and they also don't make it out of groups. Which will be, I don't know. It is maybe a classic Team Liquid storyline where they sort of feel like they're getting better, and they kind of are, but they also never actually, nothing ever happens. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, nothing ever quite happens. They never do the thing, right? They never do it. I think if you listen to some of the interviews we've had on OWTV, a lot of the NA players sort of talk about that kind of desire to want to be the first NA team to do something, right? To have that result at the major, to get a fucking top 4 or something crazy, And I think that desire's there. It just hasn't happened yet. And I don't think Team Liquid have enough about them for it to be them at this event. Which is, yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame because I think especially like Tree and Zera, like these guys are world class, I think Tree and Zera could, with the exception of like the top teams, they can walk into it almost any team, All right. So that was a bit of a somber ending for Team Liquid. But it's still kind of positive. They are still getting better. Still kind of getting better. Oh, thank you, Treacle Teedle D. Thank you for the tier 1. Varel Sweep.
Varel Sweep.
Varel Sweep. All right. We'll do Twisted Minds next. But I could also do with a little bit more water because I've been doing a lot of talking. So let me give you an ad break and I'll grab a drink and then we can crack on. I'll maybe try and like speed up a little bit. I know we're getting to like the more interesting teams, but there are a couple of teams we can maybe skip a little bit. So I'll try and be more concise, guys. Oh. All right. Oh. Oh. All right, drinks assembled. Okay, Twisted Minds. Oh, thank you, Boundless Bread. Hey. Thank you for 28 months.
Howdy CX.
That's me. Hey, Chower, thank you as well. Tier 2 as well. Thank you very much, Chower. It's class of you. Appreciate it very much. The notification will catch up. There we go.
Bonjour.
Are you going? This this week, Chower? I don't know what part of France you're from, but is it? You can do a little stop in, see it live. Yeah, I go this weekend. For the big games. That's class. You get transfers after group stage. So Friday after Friday's games, you get to make transfers, and you'll get like an extra 5 budget as well to make transfers for playoffs. Yeah, I'm excited to see how it looks. I was watching a little bit of this Infected short earlier, and he was like hard glazing like the player lounge and stuff. He was saying like facilities there really good, which kind of has become the standard at Esports World Cup. But first went outside Riyadh and still class. So pretty good. Pretty good. All right, should we crack on with TM? Because TM have come in as the 3rd place seed from EMEA, which is, in many ways, this is probably part of the reason Group A feels so stacked, because it's got the 2 EMEA teams in it. That wouldn't happen, Max. Internet problems during a big stream? I wouldn't worry about it. So, Twisted Minds, alright. 3rd place in EMEA, and I guess what made it feel worrying for Twisted Minds is maybe Quartz felt a little bit quieter compared to the insane standards we have for him, and that he set himself. Comp-wise, there were maybe some struggles. Maybe the biggest one individually of the heroes was maybe TVNT didn't feel that strong on Sig, even though I feel like he should be really good at Sig, because I feel like I've seen him be very good at Sig historically. And they ended up kind of becoming the Cat Bastion team of EMEA, which was a bit of a weird look. You typically don't see TM stray away from that. From like their sort of, I guess, their brawl roots. They did obviously still end up their own style with like Diva Sim, Cat Bastion and everything. So, yeah, it didn't feel like the same Twisted Minds we're used to seeing. It starts tomorrow, Lego Baller Boy. Tomorrow at 11 BST, 11 a.m. So yeah, that was all a little bit odd, right? But, we say it all the time. You can never count this team out, right? And at Champions Clash, they felt like they had no real great read on what comp or what identity they wanted to have going into the tournament. They got smashed in the upper bracket by a Mizuki comp they hadn't seen before, and yet somehow, some way, they still end up one map, one moment, if you think about that Oasis maybe as well, or like one round away from winning the entire thing. Even remember how that grand final started, 2 maps down, where they got absolutely smashed until they went, what have we played? Ryan Baptiste. Truly EMEA at their core, aren't they? And it worked, and they kind of pulled it back, and they could have just won the entire major right then and there. So, never count these guys out. And remember, that was going into a tournament where it felt like they didn't have a great read or a great set of comps they felt incredibly good on. This tournament, I think, feels very different for Twisted Minds. I think they have a much stronger read on what they want to play. I think their identity feels much clearer. I think we should expect to see basically entirely Yubi. You look at, if you were here earlier when we talked about what heroes we would see in the meta, Sim was right at the top of that, so I think expect to see a bunch of that, and that's always a strength. Always a strength for TM. So I think Twisted Minds will play a wide variety of comps. I think they might still, I wouldn't be surprised if they use for Cat Bastion at times. But I think we're going to see them play all sorts of these different Brawl type ones. I think we'll see TV&T play the entire spectrum of those different tanks we talked about at the start, the Ram, the Malga, the Sig. It's a small spectrum, but a spectrum nonetheless. I think as well, again, I got, insider knowledge, I guess. Humble brag. I got to see little bits of it as well, and actually Tuvan, I think, playing incredibly well right now, and I think what I said earlier about Quartz kind of having a quiet stage too, fuck me. Every map I watched, it was fucking incredible. He's so good. I know that's not news, but he's so good, right? And there's still something about watching him when in my head, I know he's incredible and he's going to do crazy things. And then I watch him and I'm still blown away, right? So I feel like, I don't know, maybe that swayed my opinion. Maybe I'm buying in too much to it, but I feel like this might be another. Do you remember World Finals where Quartz was just in a league of his own in terms of what he was doing? I think there's real potential that Quartz has another tournament like that this week. So that's really exciting. That's obviously great news if you're a Twisted Minds fan, of course. And I think there's going to be, they've got the hero pool for it as well. Maybe they'll do the same things that Twisted always do, right? They'll rely on Sim a lot. They'll maybe rely on Lucio more than a lot of other teams. But also, wouldn't you do the same? You're not good at Sim. You're not good at the Lucio comps, right? Would you not do the same? I think they're still going to remain relatively ban-proof through options like Juno and a bit of Cat and a bit of Mizuki if they need it. And again, Tivant can pivot around all of these tanks quite well. I think Tivant's playing really well on Sig as well from the little bits I've seen, which is maybe a good news. So it feels like everything's actually starting to come together for Twisted Minds right before the tournament. So I expect Twisted Minds will be the strongest EMEA team at this tournament. And I think we'll sort of, you'll maybe see the predictions, but I think TM top 2 in this event. My top, the other one of my top 2 is Crazy Raccoon, which isn't a surprise. But I think Twisted Minds will be the best EMEA team, and I think they're really in with a great chance of winning it. Holy Aura thumbnail, thank you, Heather. Yeah, dug out the old SSG photo shoot images. So I don't know, there's probably almost not too much more to say about Twisted Minds. It's really mostly positive. Maybe there's some scary maps for him, Paricio or Route 66, but I don't think they'll be as scary as maybe they sound on paper as well. Maybe Paricio will be, but I don't think Route 66 will be. Because if you remember, what was it? Was it World Finals? Maybe they just played Quartz on Freya. And Quartz on Freya solved a whole bunch of their problems, so I think that's really...
Where do you think VP
really
and GK stand?
Thank you, Manu. Where do you think VP and GK stack? I'll talk about it in more detail later, but I guess the preview of that is probably probably GK, like, honestly, could be top 4. VP... VP will make it out of groups, but I don't know how much further they'll go. But I'm sort of going through the teams each, so I'll be able to give you like a more detailed answer once we get to them. I expect to see mostly UB, unless something goes catastrophically wrong in the next few days. But expect a lot of UB. Yeah, if you want to watch the UK stream, I think Kai's streaming it now. If you wanna tune in. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say about TM. Just, yeah, I'm really, really big on TM. I think they got a really great chance to win. I think they're a top 2 team at this event. Oh, GP streaming too? Nice. So yeah, so hugely big on them. Right, where are we going next? Okay, so we're doing these in seed order from bottom to top rather. So the next team, as we go up the seeding, is JD Gaming, which is, you know, makes you think, doesn't it? Makes you think. Team doing well because of Quartz? I think yes, as always, but I think also, like, Tivent's really playing really well at the moment, and I think they just look good, right? Just on everything, Max, on everything, on Sojourn, on Freya, yeah, like, honestly, I don't know, man. Like, when I was watching him, I, like, messaged Daniel of, like, man, this Quartz guy is fucking crazy. Like, I know we all know he's crazy, but he's actually fucking crazy. And Daniel was like, are you watching this map by any chance? And I was like, yeah, that map. And he was like, second point? I was like, yeah, second point. He was like, I know the exact moment you're talking about, you know? Like, I don't know. Just something about that guy, you know? Just iconic. And now to segue to an equally iconic team, JD Gaming. I think I nailed the segue. So JD Gaming are coming in as the second seed in China. They've cemented themselves as that second best team pretty firmly because they just beat up AG every single time. And they've also been taking maps from Weibo maybe more consistently than we've seen a lot of teams do historically in China. They even beat them in Swiss. I know it's only Swiss, but they still beat them, right? And wins against Weibo, if you're a Chinese team, are a bit few and far between. So take what you can get. And I kind of like this team a lot, right? I think like Pineapple and Kaneki are maybe actually I really like him as a DPS line. I think Pineapple is quite underrated. I think Kaneki's got good flexibility. If you missed the Chorong interview as well, he did actually say JD might surprise you, which is like, yeah, it's pretty high praise, you know, coming from Crazy Raccoon and, you know, they're, you know, how good they are and where we expect them to do in the tournament. Roxy should deserve a bit of mention as well. I think he's been a key part of helping his team up, or helping his team level up. So I think JD Gaming have a real chance. I think factor in, they've got the easy group right as well. We talk about this group B being the easy group so much. But it's really important. It really changes the dynamic in terms of like getting to top 8 is really possible if you're in group B for a much wider range of teams. Meta-wise, how good a fit is it for them? Maybe there'll be a few problems in tank if there's going to be lots of Ram, Malga, this type of thing. There's some whispers of them leaning into sim stuff, which they've done previously. I think Kaneki's got pretty decent flexibility for it as well. Maybe the big worry, it's going to be the main support player. It's going to be Mew. A little bit worried about him in these big tournaments, as we so often are. But these guys are a real dark horse, I think, for Group B. We'll talk about it more when we get to the bracket, but if you actually look at how the bracket works, I'll draw you a hypothetical, right? So, let's say Crazy Raccoon win their game. Hot take, sorry, Kuffer. Team Secret will go down to here. And then let's just say SSG. We're talking about JD. So let's say JD win for the sake of argument, right? Just because for the hypothetical. SSG will go down here. And SSG will play this one. And the other one will be Team Secret, right? Fuck Kuffer, exactly. Then on the other side, we expect this to be Zeta GK, right? And the loser of this game goes here. So if you lose your first game, if you're SSG or JD Gaming, you lose your first game, you then have to play the loser of GK Zeta. Whereas if you're on the other side, and you are JD Gaming in this hypothetical, and you lose to Crazy Raccoon, really possible, right? You go down to this game, where you will play the winner of AG and Varel. Right? And that difference between winning that first game and losing that first game, I feel like is kind of life or death in whether you make it out of groups, right? So, yeah, there's so much pressure on that game. And I think, honestly, we're going to talk about SSG next, but there's more pressure on SSG than JD Gaming. I actually quite like JD Gaming as a team because I think they're pretty, I don't know. I feel like they play quite free Overwatch. It doesn't feel like they get hit by... exactly, Angel of Pax, yeah. I don't feel like JD... They don't change their playstyle if the game is big or whatever. They still kind of feel like they play it quite fast and quite loose and quite recklessly and quite aggressively. And that's all quite fun. I think if any team is going to sort of maybe like... I'm going to say play a bit tight. I know that's more of like a sporting term. But if they sort of... I don't know, just the pressure gets to them and it's more likely to affect SSG than JD, is what I'm kind of get at here. So that first game, hugely impactful for both JD and SSG. But I think JD actually, they're the dark horse to qualify. Like, they've got a real great chance of getting out of Group B. I think they might be the fourth team alongside the two Koreans and GK. So, yeah. I think, yeah. But... that means we probably have to talk about SSG, right? Right? Okay, so first thing to note, they've actually played not as many maps, or a less wide variety of maps, which is why the graphic looks a little bit more empty than some of the others. But what do we say about SSG, right? Because it felt like they were kind of back at the start of Stage 2. You know, they were dominant, they were winning all their games. Then they, like, really disappointing in playoffs. They don't have a boot camp going in, so they've been playing on ping. Chris has been calling it their altitude training. So they've been having their altitude training, so hopefully they're surely now ready for the Azteca. They've been played, I think, over this last week, where as much as they don't have... it will be on YouTube as well. As much as they don't have the boot camp, they can still play all of the teams in EMEA, even though they have to suffer through the ping. But the scrim results have been quite poor. Slight caveat is that they won, I think, on their last day before travel. They won like quite a few of their maps. Not against the most impressive opposition, but, you know, you take what you can get when you're low on confidence. So, I guess the bigger thing to talk about with SSG is, what are the problems? So, I think you were in Europe on that one, so you won on low ping. Okay. So what are the problems? So I think, initially, an unclear unique strength in this meta, like maybe a Dallas or something, that's a problem. I think Admiral's hero pool is a problem, and I think that will be put under question in this event. You know, we've seen a lot of good examples of people adapting, like Chirong has adapted really well, Kellex has come back and adapted fine, Fix is doing really well on new heroes. Admiral, I don't think has really done the same on Mizuki or on Cat or anything so far. So he needs to do better on some of these heroes. Now he's going to inevitably have to play at some point in this. I think UV's... I don't think UV's necessarily a hero pool problem, but I think when he is stuck playing Kiriko, you don't get the best out of him compared to if you could get him onto Baptiste or Anamor, but I don't really know how they do that either. So UV feels like you don't quite get the best out of him, so that's maybe a harder problem to solve. I think Lethal might have some issues where his Freya isn't as good as a lot of other people's. I think other hit scans are viable, so again, maybe there's some mitigation to that problem, but it's still a problem. I think Hawk on Sig will be fine. I think Hawk on Diva will be really fine. But I think Hawk on Malga and Ram are much bigger worries. And I think all of a sudden, when I start to list a few of these things where maybe the Admiral has a few hero pool problems, Hawk has a few hero pool problems, Lethal maybe even has a problem if you can force like a good Freya map and ban like his other option or something for it. But you can actually you can draft quite well against this team. I think Sugar-Free, I know Sugar-Free gets like a lot of attention because he's the big streamer guy. But I think he's actually fine. I think he's good at Sim. I think he's good at all the heroes he needs to be. I don't know how much we'll be able to see him on Tracer, you know, like on his best hero. Well, that kind of sucks. But I think the bigger problem is maybe even if sugar-free is fine, 1 out of 5 fine isn't it's not like enough. So all these comp and hero problems, I think, also get exacerbated by low confidence, right? Because the lower the confidence you are if you're just losing scrims or having a tough time anyway. Standard Vanna is a 2 loss system and you're out. But you're having all these low confidence problems, everything's going to feel worse, right? Everything's going to feel worse. Trying to play a new comp or trying to do something else is going to feel harder. So they have a bunch of problems that are like quite tangible and maybe hard to fix. You know, like people aren't always able to just get better at the right heroes quickly enough or good enough at the right heroes quickly enough, especially when we talk about the quality of teams at the major and such. But when you're a low confidence, that stuff just compounds and will be absolutely killer. So yeah, I think there's real dangers as well to low confidence in this particular format too. Like, I think if you are low confidence, you're probably more liable to make a bad or a nervous start. You're probably more liable to make a small mistake, turn into more mistake, turn into bigger mistakes. You're probably liable to have more unforced errors, right? If you ever watched like Chris do like some of the Team GB scrims, we'll always talk about like unforced errors or anything like this. Tennis term, of course. But unforced errors will creep up. So matchups, even if you're playing the matchup well or the comp matchup's good or your understanding is good and you're winning a lot of key fights, if you just have a bunch of unforced errors, you just die for no reason, you just waste your ult for no reason, even matchups that you have a good understanding of and you are playing well, you'll end up losing those even though you've done, in theory, the hard bit right. So on top of that, the series are short, right? It's 1st to 2 for all of these group stage games. So if you start bad or you need to regain composure or momentum, you actually have fuck all time to do it. And factor in what we talked about earlier with some hero pool problems, which maybe mean target bans could be potentially kind of scary for them in some situations. All of these, it's just all a lot, right? It's all a lot of things that could go wrong and make it worse. I think as well, this is like a weird problem, but their group's easier, right? And if you've got an easier group, that's good, because easier games are easier to win than harder games. Write that one down. But I think it actually adds more pressure for SSG, because on paper, SSG should get out of this group, right? We all agree Crazy Raccoon, Zeta, GK probably are like pretty strong favourites, but then SSG, you'd expect them to beat the Chinese 2nd seed, you'd expect them to beat the Chinese 3rd seed, you'd also expect them to beat the Japan and Pacific 1st seeds, right? But what this does is actually add pressure, because let's say just a random hypothetical where they were in Group A, right? And let's say they played Twisted Minds first, and then SSG lost to Twisted Minds, and you went, oh no, they lost to Twisted Minds or something. And then they go out of a tournament in bottom place, but they lost to Twisted Minds, and then they lost to even Liquid or something, right? You would kind of go, I know they technically finished bottom, but bloody hell, you play Twisted Minds and then you play Liquid. That's not like, those aren't easy games, you know? Like, maybe if they could have beaten a bunch of these other teams that maybe technically finished above them, right? So you could really cope your way out of it. That it's a tough group. Somebody has to go out of it. Yeah, exactly. Cut them some slack. But in this group, there's no slack, is there? Right? They should finish top 8 in this event based on the groups. But does that just add more pressure? Right? So, you know, again, you do all the same things you say about SSG. Experienced players, are they better on match day? Most of the time, yeah, that's true. Do they actually have, like, they do have the firepower, and that's the benefit of this smaller group, right? Is if they weren't playing that well, but they were playing against Twisted Minds, not only do they need to play well to beat Twisted Minds, they could play well against Twisted Minds and still lose because they are just outmatched for firepower, you know, in terms of Tuvant versus Hawk, Quartz versus Lethal, right? Like, they're just outmatched, you know, Simple versus UV on Kiri. Come on, right? I know who I'm picking. So they could play well and lose. Whereas, as long as they play as well as the other team, give or take, they actually have the firepower to beat JD, right? Like I know I was sort of glazing Pineapple a little bit, but Lethal should be better than him. Same with like Sugar Free. Sugar Free should be the best out of all of these. You know, he should be better than Top Dragon. He should be better than Soggy. He should be better than Kaneki. He should be better than Alfari or Insane or whoever ends up taking that role for AG, right? So I think there's actually a lot of pressure on SSG, and I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous. as a guy who sits in front of an SSG sign. A little nervous. I think there's a lot of pressure on them. And the only way for them to really relieve any of this pressure is to win. Right? They just gotta win. Because if they get out of groups, and then they'll get out of groups probably lower seed, right, because they're not beating Crazy Raccoon. They'll end up playing Twisted Minds or something. And look, if SSG go out in 8th place after losing a single elimination quarterfinal to Twisted Minds, I don't think you could have asked any more of them, right? Or expected any more of them. So if they do that, it's fine. You'd still like the performances to be convincing, sure. Oh, thank you, Gandalf. Appreciate the 29 months. Thank you very much. So yeah, you'd like the performances to be increasing, everything like this. Notice how CX it's because I just moved the camera. It's still there, guys. It's still... Where am I going? That way. It's still there. So yeah, I'm worried for SSG. I hope they win. Obviously, like in all these situations, I'm always going to be rooting for Chris. I'm always going to be rooting for Admiral and Lethal. You know, I want them to do well. But this is I gotta be honest as well, right? This is a scary fucking tournament. There's pressure on him here. Root for your employer. Yeah. All right, should we move on? T1. All right. I don't think I'm gonna say anything about T1 here that I haven't already said about T1, because it's kind of just the same story, right? Their players are great. Donghack and Proud, I think these guys are up and around, maybe not, they're not best in role, but they're kind of around that, you know, like top 5. Skewed, I think, is really underrated as well. I think because Vigi's had like such a big glow up, and obviously Simple exists in terms of Korean flex support players, and Shu exists on all the other heroes. I think Skewed's like massively underrated. We've also seen some really cool solutions. Like, I feel like some of the comp solutions and playstyles that we've seen T1 pull out over the last, 18 months of their existence have been so cool. Like, that, I still remember, like, quite distinctly that Busan against Twisted Minds and how well they played. I remember them playing, like, a ball venture composition on Runa Sapi that felt really like, wow, I've not seen anyone play like this before. So, you know, I want to give... I feel like my emphasis is to give Fletter a lot of credit on that. So yeah, that's great, right? All of these things are great. They've got top players in each role. They've got creative coaching solutions and good coaching overall. Not Rush, yeah, not given. It 100% got better after Fletter joined, you know? 100% got better after Fletter joined. So... all these things are great, all these things are positive, and of course, yeah, they've got Unter and Poco, right, so they couldn't ask for better support from their co-streamers, but they always fail to deliver on this promise at major tournaments. So, will this one be different? That's the big question, right? That's the question we always ask ourselves about T1. Will this one be different? I don't think so. I feel like it's failed to happen so many times now that you kind of just can't predict it until they do it, right? There's nothing we've seen in the lead up to this competition that we haven't seen in the lead up to previous competitions where they failed to deliver. So I don't know why it would be different here. Ultimately, with these things, there's probably an intangible element as well. Bliss was playing in my NA Masters lobby last night, mate. I didn't expect him to be level 300 on Mercy, but it doesn't inspire confidence. as long as he's Mercy's ready for the big tournament, that's all we can ask. You know, is a slight tangent. I played a quick play yesterday. I played against what I'm pretty sure is a fake Zodial, but I played against a Zodial who was on Ash getting hard pocketed by a Mercy, and I beat him in like a desperate overtime situation on Colosseo. So it's possible that I'm better than Zodial. So I'm taking that as fact. You can write that one of the history books. What was the Mercy name? I can't remember. But let's not get too distracted by my incredible quick play achievements. It does. Wait, does it actually? It could have. Wait, should I ask him? I'll message him now for you guys. Video. Go. Did you play quick play yesterday? Mash with Mercy Pocket. This is a Winston. I'll ask. I'll let you know what he says. We'll go back to T1 for now, but I'll let you know what Zodiel says. It's funny if I did beat him. Just going to rub it in. Yeah, just going to bring it up again. What was I saying? Okay, so yes, T1, they failed to do it every single time before, right? They don't deliver in the big moment, even though they do well in scrims. Even lead up to this tournament, people are saying they look good in scrims, everything like this. But they never seem to win that big map 5, the clutch moment, the scrappy overtime fight, whatever it is. And I think it all has to come down to, there's a lack of leadership. There's a lack of leadership. So in these big moments where you need someone to make a decisive action or make the big call or something, they just seem to be lacking that bit of direction, which means they lose it in a slightly different way, where they always lose by fine margins every single time. So you can sort of go, that could have gone differently, blah, blah, blah. But they lose it every single time. And I think that's a lack of decisiveness and leadership in the comms in these big moments. And that's maybe why when they have like a clear, novel setup from their coach or something, it works really well. And they can all play the style and we can all execute it really well. But when they are essentially in a situation where they have to improvise or solve an unexpected problem or solve, just a fucking scrappy 3v3, it's chaos, no way to prepare for these, that's when they always fail. So that's when they always fail. And I'm worried it will just be the same again. Also, Zodiel's just responded to me. It was him. Don't worry. Don't worry, many have fallen to my Winston. It's understandable. Okay, right, back on track. Or I've taken long enough, right? I can. Hexo says lower happens. Right. So I in terms of actual meta, how does it apply to T1? I think it should be mostly fine. Donghack's good at Mauga, I think. Maybe there's some question marks about Ram, but, I'm such a big fan of Donghack, I kind of just trust him in all these situations. Jasmine is really good at Sigma, too. Maybe it's a little bit awkward that their Sigma guy and their Mauga / potentially Ram guy are two different people, so they can't necessarily go between it in maps. I hope they kind of just commit to Donghack, because I think he just has that, whatever we're going to call it now, something special, that X factor. I hope they just commit to Donghack and just deal with the fact that maybe they can't really play Sigma in some of these situations. I think of all the tanks, Sigma is the most, workaroundable. Other than that, I think the meta will be pretty good for him. Proud will be good at Freya. Bliss will do all right on all of the heroes, all of this. And I guess also what's true is, as much as it feels like it's kind of quite a negative preview of T1, it's only because they're so good. Like, I think there's a real chance they actually are still a top 8 team at this event and everything like that. And the problem is, I think, ultimately, the quality of player they have in some of these roles does, demand that they finish better than top 8 at some point. And they've had quite a few chances already, and it's not happened yet. So you start to run out of chances, right? So the scrutiny gets higher, the pressure gets higher, everything like this. I don't think they're ever going to be in a position to win it, just because I do think they get backline gapped by these elite teams. But I don't know. They've got again, same thing we always say. They've got the players to do it, but I don't think they will do it. But they'll probably take it out of groups. All right, GK. We're now all the way up to 6th seed here. We're starting to gain a bit of gas, a bit of momentum. GK Esports. All right. So, did anyone think, hand on heart, did anyone think this is the situation we'd be in talking about GK at the start of Stage 2? Right? What an insane improvement from the start of Stage 2 to right now. So, we always knew GK, we always talked about their player quality through like Ziad and Lubda, Alpha U were always the ones that people sort of focused on. And I think we've seen so many good things, right? I think we've seen Ziad, it was so good on D.Va last year, but I feel like we've really seen him excel on other heroes like Sigma and Mauga. Throughout Stage 2, I think we've seen Alpha Yi do way better on Sim than we've ever seen him do before. And I think, honestly, Finn is probably playing the best Overwatch I've seen him play in years. And then you add into that, Lubda is still delivering, right? And Kellex has come in, and the most important, or the biggest challenge for Kellex, I think, was going to be coming in, and can he play Mizuki and Cat up to a standard that the team requires? And I don't know if we've seen too much Cat from him, but I think in terms of Mizuki, he's absolutely delivered. So the glue continues to be the glue. And this GK team have become like a real force to be reckoned with, right? They did super well in Stage 2. They really could have even won Stage 2, which would have been an insane result for them. And the scrim bucks are super high, right? Junk Buck, when I asked Junk Buck in the interview I did with OWTV, you can go watch him full if you want on owtv.gg, but I asked him who he thinks the top 3 teams at the event are, excluding his own team, Team Falcons. And he said Crazy Raccoon, Zeta, and GK, right? And that's GK feels like a rogue name to throw in there, right? Like when you got Twisted Minds, you got virtus.pro, you got T1, blah 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 blah. So that's huge praise. When Chirong talked about the 2 strongest teams they played, he talked about Dallas and he talked about GK. So GK are really making an impression, right? So there's so many reasons to rate this team. I think they've also got the easier groups. A group qualification should be pretty straightforward for them. I think they beat Zeta Division. That's, I'll do my full bracket once I've gone through all the teams, but inevitably we'll talk about some of it. I think GK, obviously they beat all gamers, right? Sorry to all the MAG fans. Zeta should beat Varel, but then I think GK goes straight through. And then they probably get a pretty favourable draw out of playoffs. And yeah, then they kind of just get top 4, right, if they get a favourable draw in playoffs as well. So yeah, great. And Esports World Cup is like the middle event. After the Esports World Cup, we'll get the Overwatch World Cup, which is where the countries play each other, and then we'll have Stage 3 and World Finals quite a bit later on in the year as well. So this is the big one in terms of it's got the most money, the most teams, but it's only the middle event as far as the calendar's concerned. But yeah, so I'm really like GK top 4. I can kind of see it. We should probably talk about downsides as well, right? What could go wrong for them? I think there are some similarities to T1 in that in the biggest moments they kind of falter a little bit. We've at least seen some examples of that. I think the Alpha E Stagger one is always going to sort of stick out like a sore thumb that probably brings a lot of pain to any GK fans. But also, this core of players, we talk about like Ziad, Lubda, Kellex. You think about that Alcacia team last year, Alcacia 2025, and they got to 2 grand finals, right? And they were kind of real letdown grand finals in terms of how they performed. Despite, qualifying for a grand final was a fucking huge achievement, right? Especially, I don't think anyone would have expected that Alcacia team to. But they kind of fell flat in those finals. So there is a concern there, right? There's a concern of how do they handle these big moments. I think they don't deserve as much scrutiny as T1 because T1 have had this problem for way longer and way more opportunities. GK, this is their first tournament actually doing quite well. So they deserve more room. More room and more opportunities to fail or to not fail. Also, they start slow, right? They start slow. They had to reverse sweep a bunch of these series. If I told you, right? So you can see the individual win percentage for their maps here, right? And there's some good, some bad, everything like that. But if I told you GK's overall map win percentage for Stage 2 was 46.34%, that sounds crazy, right? Kind of, obviously it's weighted a little bit by some they got smashed and then they won a lot of 3-2s, etc, etc. But it means they've had to win a lot of dogfights, and obviously winning dogfights is a little bit of a counterpoint to the previous point I made, so there's sort of good things to it as well. The problem with, because they reverse swept, oh god, I can't remember, was it Twisted Minds they reverse swept? Something crazy? So they have also won big moments, right? They've also won big moments as well as losing big moments, etc, etc. Maybe there's like more balance there. The problem with reverse sweeps is it's first to 2 to begin with, right? So I think some of the result of their bad starts, I think their draft has been pretty consistently poor compared to a lot of the other teams in EMEA. I think that will be a problem, especially once they play the elite teams. And I think it will be a bigger problem in first to 2. The one thing that might get them out of trouble is the fact that they're in the easier group. So by the time they play in these big teams where they'll maybe get a bit more exposed in the draft, where they can't just win through player quality, they might have more maps to work with and more chances to just get past it, you know? So maybe that problem is mitigated by that. But overall, I think, despite No's problems and No's worries and what happened to that Alcatia core last year, blah, 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 ultimately, I think the fact that we're talking about this GK team that had such a, underwhelming Stage 1 and then such a poor start to Stage 2 in that first week, and we're now talking about, like, I don't know if they might only finish top 4, I don't think they can go above that or something. Like, fuck, that's crazy, right? That's incredible to do that level of improvement in such a short space of time. I think this team's also super fun to watch. I think they're incredibly aggressive. Maybe too much to the degree they can be a little bit one-dimensional, but I think it makes them really fun to watch. I think it really gets the best out of Ziad because it leans into his playstyle. I think Alfie's made huge improvements. Finn's made huge improvements. Every time you see the behind-the-scenes of GK, it actually feels like the players all get on really well, So I don't know. I'm excited to watch GK play. I'm excited to watch GK play. Can they win the whole thing? Maybe outside chance. But I expect we've seen this team top 4 for sure. For sure. All right. Now, and I promise it's not just going to cycle between Glaze the EMEA team, criticize the non-EMEA team, but it's not my fault Weibo is the next team we have to talk about, okay? That's just, they're the 5th seed in this tournament, which is also kind of crazy. It's also kind of crazy they're the 5th seed in this tournament, right? But I didn't decide that. I didn't make that. Okay, so I don't know what to say about Weibo. Weibo, some of the teams I feel like I've maybe been harshest on are probably like Team Liquid and T1, just because there's been so many instances of it not working. I feel like we are really at this point with Weibo. I feel like the worst thing for Weibo, though, is despite the lowered expectations based on previous results, the fan pressure in China, I think, is still insane. The fans are highly critical, highly demanding, and they really want their great Chinese core back, right? They want them to compete on the world stage again. They want those Spark guys to do it. So despite what should be lowered expectations for a region that has really fallen down the power rankings internationally, I feel like the pressure's still insane in these guys, and that doesn't really feel fair. Maybe some of that's mitigated when I remember that Gushway did get that giant 5-year contract and all of this, but it still feels a little unfair. I also think the meta's not great for them. I think Sunzo on Sigma, A+. Really great. Sorry to qualify. Yeah, that was his Spark contract. Yeah, that was his Spark contract. Yeah. Not right now. It's still nuts. It was still a nuts deal at the time, right? Was it 5 years? Maybe I think it was a 3 year. Maybe it was 3 years at the start, and then it got extended pretty early on. And I think nobody got a 3-year deal. Maybe it was 5. It might have been 5 to start with. Yeah. Either way, he got like a longer contract, and I think basically anyone else in the league quicker than anyone else in the league. Yeah, either way, crazy deal. Not to get too sidetracked, but yeah. So, I think Sunzo, great at Sigma. But what about Sunzo on Ram, Sunzo on Mauga? I feel like we've seen bits of it, but I think Guxue's probably played more Mauga than him, which maybe leaves him in a... Like, Sunzo kind of is... Like, Lee's their best player, but then I think after Lee, it is Sunzo. So you kind of want Sunzo in, but he's really good at Sigma and he's really good at Diva, and these are heroes that can both kind of be worked around. So that's maybe a worry. Leave, I think, is not a worry. No worry about Leave at all. I think Leave has looked incredible on Shion. I think he might genuinely be the best Vendetta in the world. I know we've not seen a huge amount of Vendetta, but he's kind of crazy on it. So I think Leave is going to be the shining light here. Will he play much Sim and much May? Probably not. He's going to play his own stuff. But I think if he can make it work, right? On between Shion and Vendetta, I think he can really make it work. I know because Lee probably got the most. Some of you guys have mentioned it already. He kind of got the most public backlash because of the Landon thing, right? But I think the person who actually deserves the most criticism, and Hilarium's a step ahead of me here, it's actually Shy. I think Shy is the one who's fallen off the most. Like Guxue kind of has, but his heroes are just shit now. You know, like I reckon he's still incredible at Winston. It's just it doesn't mean anything anymore. You know, They've neutered the poor guy. I feel like Shy has been the most underwhelming. And I think now if I was to start, power ranking hit scans at the tournament, I've not actually thought this through. But I might even put... Maybe I put Shy like... I don't know if he makes... Does he make the top 10? Should I just do a quick thought experiment? Let's do a quick thought experiment here. So, Stalker above him, Kev above him, Knife above him, yeah... Chronic? Maybe, yeah. Lubda, Proud. Lethal, yeah. Quartz for sure. Tree for sure. Merit, maybe above him. Yeah, maybe he's like 11th. I've not like super thought that through or anything, but like... Chronic is too far. I actually don't think it is. Yeah, I don't know. Like, and honestly, even if you can debate a couple... Even if you can debate a couple of places, we're not moving him up more than 9th or 8th, right? Like, we're not moving him up very far. I think if there is one hero we still got it on, I think it's Sojin. Like, on Sojin, I think Shy still kind of got it. But I think on Freya, he's going to look a little bit out of place. Yeah, not Coach Moon. So I don't know. Yeah, like for me, Shy outside Sojin, I'm just not buying anymore. Yeah. So maybe that feels harsh, and I hope I'm wrong, right? Like in all of these things. It's always better if all the teams are good, right? Like, I would enjoy... If China was a real... Like, Overwatch's OWCS is at its best when the more regions are competitive, right? EMEA becoming competitive was better. It would be nice if China had done, but I've seen absolutely nothing from Shy to convince me that will be true. But saying all that, you know what I think the biggest problem with this roster is? I think it's actually the backline. And I feel kind of weird about it, because when they first signed when they first signed these guys, they're just huge upgrades on paper, right? But I think what's happened is Maka and Lee Min, when they were on that like Wei team or whatever they were called at the time, they were at their absolute best. They're like beat the best teams in Korea best when they were on Ana Kiri. Like these type of backlines, or Ana Ilari, right? And I think what's happened is on paper an Ana Kiri backline, Ana Wu Yang, yeah, that stuff is fucking incredible with like a Winston, right? And hold on, if I'm Weibo, I go, have I got a Winston for you? Unfortunately, what's actually happened is Winston's kind of been put in like a really hard and awful to use place. And when was the last time you saw anyone run Winston Ana Kiri? So I feel like what was meant to be a big benefit of this Maka Lee Min backline just isn't real anymore, or there's no way to actually get the most out of it. Thank you, Dragon of Mila, for the 23 months. Appreciate it. Dallas Stage 1. Right, but we're talking what? Like 1 or 2 maps? 1 or 2 maps before out of how many games of Overwatch in the last like 18 months? You can make an argument that maybe they should actually try it in some places, but I think what this means for the actual backline is, and this is certainly more true of Lee Min than it is of Maka. I think Maka's kind of fine. You know, he's not as good as the elite backlines, but he's actually fine. He's got a pretty decent hero pool. Lee Min, I think, is the one who ends up getting exposed when he can't play in these sort of Kiri, Ilari, you know, these greedier backline DPS. So I think as soon as he's off that, he just becomes a liability. Yeah. So when you have that sort of, I guess, weakness, and also on top of that, the fact that they're trying to learn Chinese, which is obviously a hard thing to do, but it also causes more problems. And now they're in this weird situation where if I say, what's everyone's best heroes? And it's like, I want to play, maybe on a different color. I want to play Diva. I want to play Ana. I want to play Kiri. I want to play Sojourn. I want to play... Leaf can do fucking whatever he wants, you know, he's good at everything. But this doesn't feel like a comp.
Forgot to cancel.
Thank you, Daklol, for the 3 months. Appreciate it. But this doesn't really feel like a comp that they can into. Maybe some of that is like, I don't know, fucking propaganda, and if they just opened their minds, if they just had free will, they maybe just could. But yeah, isn't Mizzy Kiri? Yeah, well, I think the problem is, on paper, yes, but it also relies on Lee Min being good at that. And I think when we see Lee Min on Brig, when we see him on Cat, when we see him on Mizuki, he's just not. And I don't have a good reason as to why, or something, or like why he got good at Kiri but not in these other ones, or all of this. So yeah, I think the backline's a real problem. I think Shy's going to be underwhelming. I think Sunzo's not going to get to play too much of his best heroes, and the rest of the teams are too good. Have we seen him on Mizzy? Yeah, only little bits, you know. But I often watch China after Korea, you know. Do they think they win a series? Yeah, maybe. I need to figure out. Yeah, I like this one. This one's like winnable. I think this is more 50-50 than maybe Weber would want it to be. And we need to figure out what the lower bracket is. Like I think like what is it? It says with the top 8, so like 9th to 12th maybe seems where Weibo could end. We'll see what it looks like when I actually fill in the bracket, but I don't know. I think this team is never going to beat an elite team. With some of the hero pool problems and the current form of some of their players, and then on top of that, they don't really even have that unique look. Like, honestly, when Weibo were at their best, was it not just when they could just play Winston and a Brig? You know? Or some version of that Winston, Kiri Lucio or something. Puff Winston, agree. So I don't know. I just don't think there's anything about this Weibo team that should make you believe they're getting out of groups. Puff Winston. All right, should we move on because we're getting? Oh wait, I nearly skipped Dallas. All right. So we need to talk about Dallas, but the first thing we need to talk about Dallas is we probably need to do some context, right? We need to do some contexting, because if you've watched the OWTV interviews, you would have heard a lot of like pretty big and complimentary claims about Dallas. So if you haven't seen those interviews, the TLDR is we interviewed Luke on Wednesday, and he said, we beat all the EMEA teams in scrims. And some people were like, there's no way that's true. It was true. And then Chirong, we interviewed on Friday last week, and he said the two strongest teams they've scrimmed were GK and Dallas, and he also said he thinks NA is greater than EMEA. And I think, reading between the lines a little bit here, when he says NA is greater than EMEA, what he means is Dallas. Right? Well, I think what he means is Dallas. I'll show you the stats when I bring it up. But the other important thing to remember is the first few scrims Dallas played, they were playing on high ping because their boot camp started a little bit later than everyone else. So Dallas then had pretty, I think, like middling scrims while playing on ping. They could only scrim other NA teams at the time because obviously Sunjin, Kellen, Korea. And then they moved. They came to France for their boot camp. And in that first wave of scrims, they won basically all of their scrims. I think, like, the weird fact is they beat all the EMEA teams but lost to SSG or something. Or maybe they lost to Liquid. They lost like one of the American teams or something, which is like a really, well, how does that happen? Scrims, right? So I think what is true since then is is the scrims haven't sort of held as strongly. But Chirong did say on Friday they still felt like the strongest. So maybe even though if they've been equalised a bit more in EMEA, they're still well. So it's like, I think the truth of it is they are playing well, but they're not like some unbeatable dominate EMEA gods. I think what happens a lot of the times in scrims, and this happens in matches as well, is you get boosted if you play a new comp or a comp the enemy team's not seen and people aren't able to adjust during the block, right? You get like a big buff from that if you have a new comp that does kind of work. So I think that happened a lot. But what's also true is that actually does work in matches too, right? Do you remember when Crazy Raccoon pulled out the Kiri Mizzy against Twisted Minds, and Twisted Minds haven't seen it before, and Twisted Minds went, oh, I guess we're getting blown out 3-0 and full held on Rialto then. So that will still absolutely work in groups. Maybe it won't be as effective once we get to playoffs, but once we get to playoffs, all the games are fucking hard anyway, you know? And maybe they'll ultimately hit a ceiling there that they can't go past, or some kind of wall once they get to the elite teams. But yeah, so that's kind of how I feel about the scrims, and maybe that adds some more useful context that, you know, it's always important to look at the dates, I guess, in terms of scrims and results all change very quickly, and new stuff is hard to deal with immediately. But saying all that, like, Dallas playing their own stuff has always been their biggest strength, right? So they're going to keep doing that, and that's going to be hard for teams to deal with. We mentioned earlier about just how many teams. There are 8 teams in each group, which means, and who wins every game isn't completely clear, so you sort of have to prepare for such a wide variety of teams and comps and styles. And Dallas is the trickiest one of all of those, because if you can play versus some of TM's stuff, maybe you are sort of prepared for some of EP's stuff and vice versa, and maybe even like some of the other teams will have overlap, but are you prepared for any of Dallas's stuff? Maybe not. And if you can't solve a problem very quickly or figure it out very quickly, or you don't know what to ban because you aren't sure what comps to expect, oh fuck, that's really scary in a first to 2, isn't it? That's really scary. So I think Dallas actually have a huge advantage in that sense, in terms of their ability and willingness and bravery, you can call it, to play their own style in despite what everyone else is playing and everything like this. So I think there's still a lot of reasons to back Dallas in all of this, you know? They've done okay internationally before. They have a couple of players who have kind of really carry games, you know? Like, I think if I look at the players who often make the difference for them, I think it's actually Sunjun and I think it's Luke. And I think these players are still rough around the edges, right? Like, Sunjun takes a lot of fucking risks on Tracer and he's really aggressive. And sometimes this makes him look like the best player in the lobby. And sometimes this makes him a liability. And that's just what happens when you take more risks, you know? That's just what the word risk means, I think. But it means there is this capacity to have like these crazy performances. I think the same is true of Luke. He's a risk taker. And I expect to see Luke be that risk taker as well. I think in many ways, and maybe this is a weird comparison. Maybe it's not. I think like the more I think about it, the more I actually kind of buy it. I think like Luke is North America's answer to Violet. Like Violet's better, but in terms of the way Luke plays and the risks Luke is willing to make, like I think he is, right? Like obviously Violet's better at it, sure, right? But I think like stylistically and the way he approaches the game, I think he's really there, and we'll maybe see some of that, especially with some of the heroes he wants to play. If you heard Luke talk in your interview, again, you can watch the full interview on OWTV. He talked a lot about like maybe a lot of Wu Yang, a lot of other stuff. Luke is going to play mystery heroes to a degree to try and find a right answer, and he's not afraid of picking weird stuff, which really is the Dallas philosophy. So yeah. So what's going to cause them problems, I guess, is the answer, is their comps are often like slower, a bit more complicated, especially on retakes, because they're generally like pokier DPS. It means they sort of have to play wide and slow, and it just means there's more things that can go wrong because people are playing... I'm missing out on some nuclear fly visors. Perfect, Crispy. Fuck, I'm gutted. Who are we playing? Is it France? Oh, Germany today. France was yesterday. I'm sure they're handling it well. So, yeah. So, Dallas's comps, slower, wider, everyone a bit more separated, less room for error. These things definitely go wrong a little bit more. Thank you, Mila. That's MGE Mike, you know. That's Mikey A. You guys remember Mikey A? It's his birthday. So I think those retakes in particular are... Yeah, genuinely, Mila, yeah. Those retakes are much harder and much harder to do in matches on LAN, so compared to like the brawlier stuff. So I think Dallas's comps will also be a bit harder in match day just due to the nature of them. So that is a worry for them. The fact that they are doing their own thing means also, you know, they could just be wrong. Sim is like a really hard comp to deal with as well. And the more that other teams see them, the more other teams will see how teams solve them, right? Like if you see Dallas lose to Falcons and you have to play Dallas next, one, you get to see all of their comps and some of the swaps they do. You also get to maybe see, especially if Dallas lose a game, how other teams beat Dallas and what ban situations and stuff. So I think it's possible Dallas's life gets harder as the tournament goes on as well. Which is sort of true for all teams, but I think it may be more specifically true for Dallas in some ways. So, how high will they finish? It's going to their group's harder, so it's going to depend a lot on the group. But these guys are North America's best chance. I'll figure it out when I do the bracket whether I actually think they make it through. But if we ignore the groups and everything like that, you know, and just said who are the 8 best teams at this tournament, I'd probably put Dallas in it. Maybe towards the lower end, but I'll put Dallas in it. All right. Zeta Division. You guys know Zeta Division, right? Ooh. The champions of Korea. There was a moment there we didn't think they were going to be the champions of Korea because of how good Crazy Raccoon were. But they're the champions of Korea. They've done it again. The most clutch team. They won some unpredictable fights. They did the thing. The most clutch team, full of star players, the super team, doing super stuff in the most fun and dramatic way possible. And I think the key to it all was Korea's answer to Luke Mino. Violet on the cat. I think the big difference between don't say Mill. The big difference between Violet being able to play the cat is they played the cat without a Bastion. And when you play cat without a Bastion, the cat becomes a carry hero. And we all remember Violet carrying Zeta Division on Ilari in stage 1, right? And all Violet needs, you know, he'll do fine at Lucio. He'll do fine on, I don't know, Brig. Right, he's actually really good at Brig. He'll do more than fine on all of these heroes, right? But when you put him on a carry hero, he's a difference maker. Like, he wins you series. I think this happens when they put him on Ilari in stage 1, and I think that puts... and that happened in Cat once they started playing Cat without Bastion. Because Cat without Bastion, I don't think is much of a carry hero. You're more of a role player. But I think when Violet is unleashed and can do all of his own things, Violet becomes a game-winning player the same way Shu does when he's on Ana, and the same way Proper does when he's playing any hero in Overwatch. So, the other big thing to note, maybe from stage 2 of Zeta Division, is the longer it went on, the less Milgaru we saw, and the way the meta tends to be leaning in terms of Ram, Sig, Malga, probably means we're not really going to see Milgaru, or at least I wouldn't expect to see Milgaru much during the Esports World Cup, unless everything is going wrong for Zeta Division and they have to make some sort of emergency comp change, or, you know, they're just guessing for answers, you know? So, alright, so good news for Zeta, right? World-class team. I think Knife deserves a lot of credit. I think when everyone saw this team, right, we all kind of scoffed and went, how'd Knife wind up here? But I think Knife's been great, actually. I've been really impressed with Knife. I think this is the best we've ever seen him play. Obviously, it's the best team he's been on as well, I think. I guess he was on Crazy Raccoon last year, but the best team he started on consistently. But I think he's really good. I think he's also plays a style that is quite different from a lot of other hit scans. He plays quite flanky and quite low resource, which is kind of uncommon for a lot of hit scans. I think more these days you see the high resource, Bucket Quartz style of hit scan, and the hit scan becomes the carry. But I think Knife manages to play quite a low resource hit scan, which is really useful when maybe you're Zeta Division and one of your supports is Shu, maybe flanking, your other one is playing Cat in the sky, going for his own play, and what heals there are going towards Proper, you know, and that's like an oversimplification, but I think actually Knife's style, or the style now maybe Zeta have intentionally developed for him, suits them really well. I don't think it's a straightforward one to play at all, but I think Knife's done a really good job. So, you know, the other players on his team are always going to get glazed, but I think Knife actually deserves some of the props here as well, in terms of fitting into this system. Other sides, we talked about Violet's Cat, we talked about Knife doing quite well. Shu is probably going to not get a huge amount of opportunity to play Ana, of course, but I think Proper, I think Shion's going to be pretty popular at this event, and I think Proper looks like one of the best on Shion as well, so that's going to suit him really well. Maybe there's some questions around Burner in terms of, is he going to be... Obviously, he'll be absolutely fine on Sigma, right? Not too worried about that one, you would imagine. If there's any Orisa, he'll be fine on that, of course. But Malga, probably fine too. I think Malga's fine. Ram is a bigger question mark, but I don't think there's really... You know, like, these question marks are coming more because I think we've just seen a bit less of them, or at least in my very flawed memory, I've seen less of them. So, but I'm not really worried about Bernie not being able to handle these ones at all. So there's so many reasons to root for Zeta Division, to think they are good, everything like this, right? And don't get me wrong, I think they will be good. I think they probably are a top 4 team. We'll fact check that when we get to the bracket, because I feel like maybe I've said too many teams are a top 4 team. I can't have 6 teams as top 4 teams, because that's just got to not be true. But I feel like top 4 is like probably the least they would expect amongst themselves. But I just don't think they beat the elite teams, and by elite teams, I mean Crazy Raccoon and Twisted Minds. I think those are the 2 teams I mean. And maybe they don't even beat GK. Maybe they don't beat VP. Yeah. So I just worry, now while they have all of this star power, when we are in a more brawly themed meta, that star power can become a little bit less, or less integral. So I worry Zeta just don't hold up to that level of scrutiny. And even though they have Proper and Shu and Violet and all these game-winning players, I just worry like they're not title contenders. I think most people would say Zeta have a chance of winning it, but I feel out of all of the teams you would say have a chance, they have the smallest chance, if that makes sense. It feels like a weird way to say it, but does that make sense? So, yeah, I don't know. Like, it's hard because there's not really many fault I can pick individually with the players, but I think maybe that's the point I'm trying to get at here, is I'm not actually picking fault with any of the players necessarily. I'm picking fault with their macro, essentially, right? When Brawl will always talk about like the quality of the macro of your push and your pull and your ult usage and everything like that. And I think Zeta are just behind on that front when you compare them to Crazy Raccoon, Twisted Minds, and maybe even VP and GK as well. Their own biggest strength and weaknesses, yeah. I think it means, like, all these other teams, like, they'll match up great against Dallas, for example, right? In that hypothetical matchup, Zeta will match up great against them. And any of the teams that just can't compete firepower-wise with Zeta probably do just lose, right? Or even if the other team does well, they'll clutch it out, right? And that's maybe kind of happened to VP versus Zeta at Champions Clash, where it kind of felt like VP should have won or were better. But
can you do this after going through all of the teams based on what you have seen in scrims? https://tiremaker.com/create/overwatch heroes 48403.
Thanks for reading the entire URL, Brian. Thank you, Gandalf, for the bits as well. I'm going to do my bracket after this, which will probably sort of serve as the same thing. Thank you, though. I appreciate the bits. But I think the bracket will kind of do that. I'm also conscious that because I'm just an eternal fucking yapper, I've taken too long. And we may be low on time, and I'll probably have to do my fantasy. Is it heroes, not teams? I think I kind of did that at the start, no? Maybe you missed it, but right at the start, I did sort of format and then what heroes we're likely to see at this event in sort of commonality type thing. So maybe that's kind of what you're looking for. It's probably quite near the start, though. What was I saying? Zeta Division. Yeah, so I think Crypto's probably sort of nailed on something that biggest weakness, biggest strength, everything like that. Take care, Doishi. Yeah, there'll be all of the teams where they can just have greater firepower than them. But I think once you get to Crazy Raccoon and Twisted Minds, they don't have more firepower than them. And I think that's the problem. And if you don't necessarily have more direct firepower than the other team, well, then you have to beat them through team play and organisation and good decisions and stuff like this. And even though I don't think any of these Zeta Division players are stupid, I don't think they have that level of coordination as a team. Like, you know, I think it's exemplified by their limitations or their lower performance on Kiri Lucio, and I think a lot of the comps we might see at this event will work against Zeta Division in that sense. All right, virtus.pro. This one's tricky. This one I went back. I really don't know how I'm going to, what I'm going to do when I get to their bracket, but Let's start at the start, right? Because they are the EMEA champions. They're actually the second seed. Yeah, they would have been the top seed if it wasn't for, you know, Champions Clash winner being at the top, right? So let's start with the good, right? Let's start with the good. Because in a weird way, this might be the EMEA team I'm kind of lowest on. But let's start with the good, because I think there's actually so many good reasons to glaze these guys as well. I think, one, they won EMEA. And it was like the toughest fucking stage of EMEA ever, right? These games were insane. So winning that is a bigger achievement almost than... I know like Twisted Minds went near perfect in stage one. But This one's almost more impressive. It was like harder fought, right? And I look at this team, I look at that performance across it, and I think Ice is really developing into one of the best tanks in the world in terms of his ability on different heroes and the number of heroes he can play. I think he's like huge improvement this year, right? Like great job by Smash and the team and the direction he's going. I think Psycho and Landon have added a lot of that leadership and direction that maybe virtus.pro had lacked in the past with some of their rosters. I think Fixer is doing incredibly well on the new heroes like the Mizuki and the Cat. I think he's really thriving. They're doing really well on brawl comps, while also not being scared to be flexible in certain situations. Maybe the most famous example is, when they just went ball against the ball team, just won, catch them off guard. And I think that's also an example of one thing they've done a lot better this year, which is the draft. So we'd presumably give some credit to Smash in all of that, right? I think their draft has been tighter, and everything's been better. Organization, comps, bans, individual players. Like Fixer's doing better than he did last year. Ice is doing better than he did last year. Landon's still really good. I don't know if I say he's doing better than last year, really, but he came second twice last year, so he's doing really well. Kevster has been good on hit scan, to the surprise of nobody with functioning brain cells. And Psycho, I think, has done really well. He's like May Sim, really leans into the hero pool that he can play very effectively, which not all flex DPS can. Like when we talk about some of the other ones, like we talk about Sunjun and how good he is, we talk about Leave and how good he is, but not on the main, not on the sim, like Psycho's better than them on these heroes. So there's so many reasons to be positive about VP. I think the scrimbucks I've heard are slightly out of date and also scrim, so add the level of salt you would like to this take. I think they started quite well and then have maybe cooled off. From the start of when teams were kind of arriving at EMEA to here. But I've also not really seen any of them myself, so, word of mouth and all that. I think the big challenge, really, for this team is performing to what they're capable of. Whenever I've done like an interview with one of the VP players or something, or someone else on OWC we have, I feel like they've always been pretty upset, I think, about that Zeta lost, where they feel like they should have won, basically, or they played, they had like the better comps and they had the ability to win that match, and they didn't win that match. And like we've sort of made the same case for a lot of teams who are in similar situations, like your T1s or like your GKs. These are the moments that have to be different, right? These are the moments where they have to prove themselves, and this version of VP is quite different. I know it's got 3 of the same players, right? But it is quite different, with Kev's move and roll and Psycho and Landon coming in. I think Psycho and Landon change the dynamic of the team as well in terms of what they add in terms of direction and comms too. So it feels like a very different version of VP last year, so I think they should have more time and chances. But compared to, say, Twisted Minds or Crazy Raccoon or even Zeta Division, where you just feel like they might always find a way if it's if it's tight, I don't quite feel that way over VP right now. Maybe, to be fair, we did talk about that stage 2. They did have to fight hard for that and win a lot of map 5, map 7 situations. But the international is always different. The LAN is always different. International always different. Slightly higher pressure. So you got to be able to do it there as well. And VP, they have the player quality. They have the talent to be able to do that. In theory, they've just got to actually do it. Meta-wise, probably lines up quite well, right? Sig, Ice has been doing really well on that. Maybe Malga and Ram, more questions, but I feel like my faith in Ice to play different heroes and, has actually been increasing over like the last 6 months or so, maybe 12 months. So that probably feels hopefully like a positive thing. Psycho's good at all the right heroes, like we said. Backline are elite at all the right heroes as well. I don't know if I've seen a huge amount of Kev on Freya. It doesn't ring any bells, but fuck it. I'm never gonna bet on Kev to be bad at a hero, So I reckon it'll be all right. So as much as I don't really have any huge concerns for VP, I just worry once we get to those real crunch fixtures. TM will beat him, Crazy Raccoon will beat him. So maybe kind of similar to what I said about GK, right? Where it maybe feels a bit harsh and a bit down, but in reality, there's only a few teams better than them. So it's still pretty good. Even though, obviously, from VP's point of view, pretty good. Like, they'll want more. How low? I don't know. With a lot of these teams in Group A, I kind of just need to see how the group plays out, I think, because there's such... because it's so tight. I'm just going to make some tough calls. All right, should we do Crazy Raccoon? I think this one might actually be... I don't know how much there is to say. Like, they're real fucking good, guys. They're real fucking good. Tournament favourites? Yeah. Tournament favourites. The removal of Shu led to what felt like it was going to be a catastrophic, it was a rocky patch at the start, and it felt like that rocky patch was going to turn into some type of catastrophe. But oh boy, has Vigi grew into that role and really become an elite Kiri. And probably really one of the best Kiris if it wasn't for Simple's existence, right? But I think, like, you put probably, who would you put? Simple, Vigilante, and Landon maybe in that top 3. Yeah, that's maybe where I'd go for Kiri. Yeah, like, honestly, Finn deserves a shout as well, but I think Vigilante, maybe Fielder. Yeah, Fielder's a good shout. But still, though, right? But Vigilante's in that top 1, no matter what, right? So I think he deserves huge amount of credit for getting in and amongst those top 1s, because you wouldn't have put him there last year. And after their first few games of Stage 1, you wouldn't have put him there this year either at the start. So I think Vigi has been a huge success for them. And I think as much as Vigi is the obvious one to look at because he had to replace Shu and he's had to get way better at Kiri, and it sort of feels like it's kind of unlocked something new in Crazy Raccoon having this elite Kiriko player. But also, I feel like the whole tale, or the key to their success, or whatever you want to call it for Crazy Raccoon this year, has been their ability to get better at new heroes and new comps. The big example will be inventing Cat Bastion and then becoming the best at Cat Bastion. They didn't necessarily invent the Sig Mizuki, but they became the best Sig Mizuki team at the Champions Clash. And it feels like Churong has been a key part of that, right? 2 of those heroes we mentioned, the Cat and the Mizuki, involved Churong in a very direct way, and Churong's always, in theory, everyone says the advantage he's always had over players like Chio or a Funny Astro or whoever is that flexibility. And I think he's proven is like big time value this year. When we spoke to Churong as well, again, the interviews on OWCV, if you want to hear the whole thing in full, he said he was going to, the team really wanted to put on a good show and surprise a lot of teams, which implies there's a bigger level of experimentation coming, and there's a few more comps that maybe we haven't seen so far as well. So, loads of reasons to be positive on Crazy Raccoon, which probably isn't news to anyone. But I think on top of this as well, again, similar theme to this, I think Max has been playing his best Overwatch, right? Since we've seen him. Maybe best Overwatch in his career is actually really fair. All the work, Nat, like when you hear Coach Moon and others talk about in terms of putting work into his comms and his leadership, Nat really feels like it's, you can sort of see the tangible improvement, and they're now not just winning the Max maps, they're winning tournaments with Max. Yeah, they were the first team to use it, like, properly. Like, Zeta used it first, technically, in the, like, just taking the piss out of rubbish teams. But Crazy Raccoon were the ones who sort of, like, first, like, properly used it to win against good teams, I guess, to win scrims against good teams and stuff. And then they kind of popularized it from there. But alongside Max, obviously Stalker comes in, and Stalker has wasted no time at all in reminding everyone why he is just world class. Right? He's just incredible. He looks better than ever on HitScan. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm always like, what else is there to say? He's literally one of the best players in the world, right? Yeah, like, only Quartz I would put ahead of him, really. I think Stalker is so good. And he also has that flexibility if they ever need it, right? Tracer, Vendetta, Echo, whatever you could possibly want. Imagine he's going to be, you know, Shion is going to be right up his alley as well. So if they ever want to play, like, you know, the Reaper, Shion type stuff we saw bits of, or Vendetta, Shion, I think we saw bits of. He's going to thrive on that as well, and there's no environment he wouldn't thrive on. He's just world class. So I think, yeah, the off-season for Crazy Raccoon is actually is perfect in hindsight, right? Another player I think deserves a lot of credit, that maybe flies under the radar, as he so often does, is little by name, little by nature, I guess, but Heesang, I think, has flown under the radar, but I think he has quietly become, like, the best sim in Korea. I think he does everything you want a good sim to do. I think he has a good variety of TPs, and obviously that's not just Heesang, that's the team's ability to play around the TPs as well. I think he has high uptime in terms of using the TPs for himself to, you know, to take off angles and be a distraction and be a menace even when we're not doing the big macro stuff. Thank you, XE Wild, for the 11 months. He doesn't die a billion times in the neutral, right? He doesn't get caught out in any of these rotations. So I think Heesang on sim is something I didn't expect, but he's really good at it. Is he better than Yubi? Probably not, right? But I think Crazy Raccoon have become a really accomplished Symmetra team. To the degree of now, like, if they play, I don't know, like, if these guys play a Kiri Lucio Sim mirror against, like, TM, I reckon, you know, like, it's on, right? It's on. So I think Heesang's been doing so well, deserves a lot of that credit. And I think Crazy Raccoon are looking dangerous, partly for that exact reason, that now what historically might have been a comp that Korea as a region and Crazy Raccoon themselves would have been weak on is no longer a weakness. And then you add on top of that, Crazy Raccoon seem to have, whatever you want to call it, they have the creativity, they have the inventions for these new comps as well. If any new comps do come out, they seem to excel at them, be the fastest to learn and master them as well, like we saw with the Mizi Kiri. It's impossible not to make these guys favourites, right? Right? Like, I can't see a world where they don't finish top 2. Like, obviously, I know singular limbs a little bit scarier and stuff can just happen, but I don't see a world when these guys don't finish top 2. Too good on too many comps, and they're willing to throw curveballs as well, right? So, yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't... Yeah, like, in some ways, the team's that's just the favourite, and there's almost less to say about, because it's just like, yeah, they're really fucking good, they're probably going to win. But, okay, I think that's all the teams. That probably took a little bit longer than I had intended, but hopefully that was interesting, useful. And now we should do some type of bracket, I guess. All right, I don't know how we're going to do playoffs, because obviously the playoff seeding is random, so I'd have to also predict for randomized brackets, which is, you know, tough. So, but I can do the groups. Groups I can do, no problem. Before, watch this. Thank you, heterosexual dude. What is it? It's from PGE. Okay. I feel, is it going to DMCA me? Wait, is it all of us? Wait, where's... Gonna win it all!
Belka.
They're gonna win it all! Thank you, Eris, for the 3 months prime. They're gonna win it all! You're right. Thank you for that. Now... SSG coming out. Oh, hey, Dip. Thank you for the raid. We're just about to do our Esports World Cup bracket. Good luck in... When do you guys start playoffs? Is it Monday? Good luck for playoffs when you get there. Wait, hold on. Let me respond to this. What do you mean? You got more stuff? Whoa, so much more stuff. Fuck. 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 God, who haven't they talked to? Bloody hell, the team have been busy, no? Alright, stay tuned to IWTV for all of that stuff. They haven't talked to me. They'll get to you, Ted. They'll get to you, Ted. Only someone hair color. I know, right? Okay, so should we zoom in a little bit? All right. I should do scores as well, right? All right, this one easy, right? We can all agree. Sorry to any South Americans watching, but this is the way it's going to go. All right, T1 versus Twisted Minds. So, things we have to factor in is T1 love to lose when it matters. But also TM start really slow at every tournament, right? But also TM have started slow at so many tournaments now. I feel like they must have finally learnt their lesson and will no longer start slow. And I think actually they might even just 2-0 them. All right. I know I've only just started, but I actually really need the toilet as well. So let me go to the toilet. Let me go to the toilet real quick. Oh yeah, T1 will have it. Fuck it. They'll win the sim. Look, TM always win the sim ban. It doesn't make any sense and I can't explain it, but they just always do it, okay? It's just a fact of life. All right, let me go to the toilet quick and then we'll tap in for the rest of this. All right. Ready? Not yet. I was going to do it afterwards, Moaf, but I've got to go to the shops to make sure I have enough food for the week. So I'll maybe do it before the first games tomorrow, just to add a little bit of time pressure. All right. Now it gets immediately 10 times more difficult. So obviously, as you always do, let me know what you guys think. But fucking Weibo versus Liquid? Weibo versus Liquid. Weibo versus Liquid. Team Liquid are probably just going to play Weibo easy. Weibo easy. Come on. We are leaking. Yeah. Yeah, I think 100% is like maps traded. It's 2-1 to somebody. I think I can get behind that 100%. I think, though... All right. I'm giving it to Liquid. Let's update that. And then Weibo will go here. Ooh. Then Dallas versus Falcons. This one is so hard to predict because I feel like just access. Oh, thank you, Server Hogger. Yes, it was Toby. He's tied it up really nicely. First time Falcons 2-1. Yeah, so the problem I'm really having here is they both play quite distinct styles, and while Falcons were kind of back, they were kind of back on one specific comp that maybe isn't actually going to be that good into Dallas Fuel's style. So they have to solve a problem that they're maybe not very... Maybe I think Dallas win. Like, as I'm talking, this is gonna cut the middleman out. This is where my thoughts are leading. They're thinking Dallas will win. That's a little bit troubling. Should I move my cam back the other way as well now? I feel like we've finished that. I can go back over here. Wait. Oh. There we go. Falcons win. Buy into the Scrimbucks too hard. Yeah, but I'm not. I talked through my Scrimbuck interpretation earlier. But this isn't based on the Scrimbucks. I mean, I just like the liquid one was just I just think Weibo suck, okay? Like, I think they kind of suck. And I think Team Liquid upward trajectory, Weibo suck. You know, do I really think we're gonna have an all NA? Fuck. Now it's kind of when I say it out loud and I'm like, oh, fuck it. This is tight as well. Ban situation. Would Falcons fuck up the ban? Would they be used to dealing with that? Who will actually choke on the big... Sorry, I had to check a message. I think Dallas win. Fuck it. Fuck it. God. This one has caused me great difficulty. I'm severely unsure. Severely unsure. But I think Falcons don't super adapt that well. I think Falcons are good at problem solving, but I don't know if they're always necessarily good at solving in the moment, and presumably Falcons and Dallas haven't scrimmed each other because they're the first game. So therefore, the buff that Dallas had against other teams is a buff that they will also have against Falcons. And maybe Falcons haven't seen too much of what they're going to run into here. Which means I'm kind of predicting an all North American fucking final in the difficult or upper bracket in the final group, which feels wrong and feels incorrect in many ways, but I guess it isn't. So I don't know. Maybe. What? I'm like in my head. I don't want to say it all out loud because I kind of know what comps both teams play, but I don't want to say it out loud because obviously that doesn't feel like it would be fair. So I'm trying to visualize the matchup in my head. You know what I mean? Like I'm playing the little TV in my head, trying to run all the different scenarios. Like, oh, if we end up in this matchup, who would win here? But if we end up in this matchup here, will it end up in this way here? What if we end up in this matchup here? So I don't know. Stop fucking thinking, mate. Just gamble on North America. All right. Exactly. Yeah. It's the exact mastermind emote of. I mean, that was on the thumbnail today on YouTube, right? Instead of 3D chess, 3D Overwatch. You're not even an American way you're coping for him. I mean, some of it is like the liquid one. I'm actually more confident on. The liquid one, I'm more confident on than I am the others. So, should we do upper bracket first? Because I guess maybe this is easy. Let me do lower bracket first, actually. So 9Z versus 2-1. All right. Okay. We will be losing the South Americans here. Falcons will beat Weibo as well. Like I'm pretty sure of. Then VP over TM. TM will win. Team Liquid versus Dallas. Ooh, this one's a bit complicated because we talk about Dallas having the sort of surprise of a one-up. Wait, hold on. I just need to add someone to the YouTube quick. Hold on. Yeah, so this matchup gets a little complicated just because we talk about that Team Liquid might actually be kind of familiar. I mean, one thing that is true for Team Liquid, like Team Liquid have to 2-0 their way to playoffs. If they go to the lower bracket, I don't think they win. You know, so this is the route they have to go. Hold on, I'm just sharing that. Editor. Why isn't that not a real email address? It says already added to the channel. Sorry, guys. Just trying to solve this for one of the OWTV editors. Oh, okay. Oh, wait. Let's just... Maybe I fixed it. Maybe it's just a permissions thing. Next, I might have to do a little... what's login? That login. And now it's going to ask me to authenticate. Sorry, guys. We'll get back to the bracket. I just have to do this. Otherwise, they can't upload the exciting interview from live from in Paris that you guys presumably you'll want to see, I reckon. Which one is it? This one? No. Oh, fuck. Should be updated now. All right. Sorry. Locking back in. Okay. Falcons. Oh, yeah. VP and VP of loser of game 5. VP will go down to here up against Falcons. Yeah, Dallas is going through. I kept trying to run the things, and maybe Team Liquid are playing something that feels more like it is meta, but I don't know. I think Dallas just has it over them, really. And I think that will continue to be true. And actually, yeah. Especially first to 2 as well. Like, I still think, yeah. It's always hard to figure out who the first 2 will really... You kind of need to get the nitty-gritty of the bands to figure it out, but yeah. All right. I should say as well, should I have done scores for this as well? I think this will be like 2-1. I think like VP don't go out swinging. I think this maybe feels 2-1-y. This will be 2-0. Honestly, I think this will be 2-0. And then this will be Team Liquid here, right? And then I think T1, 2-0 Team Liquid. And then VP beat Falcons. Does VP beat Falcons? VP probably beats Falcons. Now, what's maybe interesting is if you were here when I was talking about Falcons, which was probably quite a while ago now, so fair play if you're still hearing and still listening for all of that. But I think VP do tend to like playing a lot of the Sig, Mizuki, Kiri still, and I think Falcons, Ram, Brig, Kiri thing that we talked about actually matches up really well into that. So maybe there's a way Falcons... It would be such a Falcons thing to do, right? Like knock out the EMEA #1 seed or something. But so that's really tight. I think if anyone else... Like Falcons... This Falcons VP is going to be incredibly 50-50. So if VP do win, it's like a 2-1. Someone break Merit's other hand. Leave Merit alone. So you think Falcons don't make playoffs? Yeah. You know what is true though? This is... Hold on. I don't want to break it. But if Falcons win this one... Like if Falcons win the first game, they go straight through, right? If you know what I mean, like that would change my prediction. Right, like if we already say we were looking at this at day 2 and Falcons had already gone through, like Falcons beat Liquid in this scenario, you know? So a lot of it sort of becomes how the bracket goes. Okay. Sorry, I've received some distracting information. I finished that one now, right? I put all the scores in. Okay, and yeah. I mean, if there's anyone I'm wrong about, like the Team Liquid one, high confidence. This Falcons Dallas, picks. Everything else I'm actually fairly confident on. And in the other way, if it was the other way around, where Falcons went here, Falcons would beat Team Liquid and go through, and Dallas in that scenario would go to the lower bracket versus T1, but T1 I think would still beat Dallas as well. So I think the only thing that would change would be that Falcons over Dallas if Falcons win the first game, if that makes sense. Generator draw. You think Spin will do good? I've heard, Yeah, I've heard Spin's been doing pretty well. Like, teeny tiny bits I've saw. I think he's done well. Okay. Alright, so some of these will be a bit easier. A classic, fuck Kuffa. Crazy Raccoon in a 2-0 team secret. We'll come back to this one, because this game's fucking insane. GK2-0 AG. I don't think there's too many surprises there. That means AG will go down here. Zeta versus Varel. Varel always seems to push Zeta kind of close, and it doesn't seem to make any sense because Zeta have just such a firepower advantage over them. But you know what? I'm betting. I reckon they'll be alright. I reckon they'll be alright this time. Surely, right? So now Zeta, and then this is Varel. Have I put AG in the wrong place? I have, haven't I? I don't know why I've written A and G so far apart, but there we go. So yeah, I think Zeta win that one, no problem. Alright, SSG versus JD Gaming. SSG versus JD Gaming. SSG versus JD Gaming. So on one hand, JD Gaming have been slightly gassed in scrims, and I quite like their DPS line, and they serve a certain sort of swagger and confidence and freedom about how they play. On the other hand, SSG, they've been struggling in scrims, they've not had a boot camp, they've been doing the altitude, aka high ping training. But they do also pay my salary. So when I put it like that... Thank you, Arzkaz995 for 26 months. Nope, didn't hear. I was too busy thanking you. No, I didn't hear the message, unfortunately, and there's no time to go back and read it. I actually think SSG win. I think SSG win. I worry it's not going to be pretty. I worry it's going to be scary and awful and tense and all of those things. But I can't. They just gotta win, you know? They just gotta. They will obviously proceed to get 2-0'd by Crazy Raccoon, you know, like, I don't get paid that much. We're gonna have to talk much bigger numbers if we want me to predict SSG over Crazy Raccoon. GK versus Zeta. I think GK will win. I'm probably going to change my mind tomorrow, and I'll tell you why when we get there. But I think GK will, 2-1 maybe. I do, GK, their fucking bans are shit, and they start slow, everything like this. But I think they are a better team than Zeta right now, which is, I think this is the bit where you guys will say EMEA bias. I'm high. Oh, sorry, I just saw Dandovan. Yeah, you can be out of a tourney in 4 maps. It's brutal. It goes against all the OWTV interviews. I feel like everyone said GK were good in the scrims, no? Or do you mean like their top 3? I mean, Zeta is still going to qualify. Let's not get it twisted, you know? So Zeta will go down here, and then SSG will go down here. All right, so Team Secret versus JD. Maybe they get a map, but also probably not. I think JD go through here. JD will then run into Zeta Division, where they then, realise, oh, fuck, we've run into Zeta Division, and will proceed to get 2-0'd, meaning Zeta still do go through. And then AG versus Varel. I actually think Varel win this. Is it clean? Is it decisive? Maybe even, yeah, actually. I kind of really don't rate AG. I don't buy it. What's this cafe? So then SSG versus Varel, and I think it's actually okay for SSG. Right? Like, again, maybe it's not pretty, it's not whatever. I think it's okay. Deadass? Yeah. Yeah. Like, because I know the scrims have been bad, and everything sort of coming out of the camp doesn't feel like incredibly positive. But I think don't underestimate region gap as well, Like, we're talking about the teams we're talking about here are the Chinese second seed and Varel. The camp is up, I promise. Okay. JDG. Varel played close against top Korean teams. Yeah, kind of, but also, I feel like I need a good metaphor. When people are like, well, they did play them close. I feel like there's an element of... That kind of means not nothing, but it means so little, right? Like if I go, I nearly got a degree. I don't have a degree, do I, Or I nearly passed my driving test. You're still not going to let me in the fucking car, are you? Like, would SSG, let me put it another way, would SSG be, if we go through all of these teams that SSG would beat, they would not beat Crazy Raccoon. They would not beat virtus.pro. They would not beat Zeta Division. They would not beat Dallas. Maybe they'd beat Weibo, but kind of maybe probably not. They definitely wouldn't beat GK. They definitely wouldn't beat T1. I don't even know if they'd beat Team Liquid right now. They definitely wouldn't beat Twisted Minds. They definitely wouldn't beat Falcons. Like... I've really said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 8 teams, and then, 2 more I think they don't win to, So I don't think this isn't Glaze, Like, I predict him to scrap past JD Gaming and then scrap past Varel. You think if Chris was watching this, he'd go, I'm getting glazed out of control right now. They're so high on us, We're getting... Fucking hell, man. Yeah, fucking hell. We got so much... Look at all this positive noise about us right now coming into this tournament. So I don't feel like... Yeah. I don't feel like this is a tremendous glaze, really. I mean, it'll be tight. Like, don't get me wrong, it's going to be tight. Like, under-predicting... I don't think so. I talk through my reasoning. You can take it as you will. But I think that's my bracket. And I think we can't... Look at my paycheck. I know, right? But I think that's as far as we can go in terms of predictions. Yeah, agree, Squash. Yeah, I think GK will win it. I think... Big believer in GK. Obviously, always going to be biased towards EMEA. Why wouldn't I? But, glad you had a safe flight, Payback. I was going to say welcome to France. I don't know if I get to welcome you to France, but enjoy your stay in France. I feel like you kind of need to be French to do that. So, yeah, so if anyone, because obviously I imagine a lot of you maybe weren't here at the start of the stream. The reason we can't do the playoff ones, obviously, if anyone wants to have a final look, that is the final thing. Can I open another tab and maybe it's okay? Yeah. It doesn't lose everything. So the way playoffs works, there's going to be 8 teams in playoffs for top 4 from each group. So 2 teams from the upper bracket, 2 teams from the lower bracket. So then we take the top 2 from A and the top 2 from B, and then we take the bottom 2 from A and the bottom 2 from B, and then there is a random draw basically to figure out how we pit these teams against each other. But one thing that's true is the top teams are a different seed. So all 4 of the top teams will play against all 4 of the bottom teams. And also, you can't play against a team from the same group. So these 2 teams will play these 2 teams, and these 2 teams will play these 2 teams. But the brackets are also random, right? So technically, the 2 top teams from Team A, let's say that's Twisted Minds and Dallas, like I did, they could be on the same side of this single elimination bracket, right? So they could both be here. Does that make sense? I know it's a little convoluted. So in like my one, it would be my top 2 teams would be TM and Dallas would play against Zeta and SSG, and then Crazy Raccoon and GK would play against fucking VP and T1. So we're gonna get some good ones. We'll get some good. I reckon we'll get some good quarterfinals, eh? Zeta JDG. Yeah. All right. So yeah, and that's kind of why we can't I can't really do the predictions, because there's no, I'm just guessing what the fixtures would be. So what I could do maybe instead, this might be useful, is have I gotten rid of it? I've gotten rid of it. All right. It's okay. Wait, no, it's on a different tab. Okay, so if I take my top 8 teams and I just power rank them, right? So let's see, who was it? It was, I'm just going to write over it. So it was Dallas, T1, VP, TM, of course, and then CR, Zeta, GK, and SSG. All right, so this is just so I have a list of them to look at. So then if I power ranked these teams, it's an M. In like the top category, I'd probably put TM and Crazy Raccoon. At the bottom, I would put SSG. And then we got to fill in the gaps, right? So who is next? I'd probably, in this sort of like tier below, I'd put Zeta, VP, GK, maybe T1. Maybe there's like T1, Dallas here. Am I missing anyone? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Maybe that's just everyone. Maybe it's just kind of like that. These 5 teams in the middle, I think, are actually really close. Like, you know, there's like Zeta, VP, GK, T1, Dallas. You can kind of see them in any order. I just think T1 and Dallas are less likely to be. Does SSG have any chance at all? I think if SSG get out of groups, they'll be happy. Dallas not top tier? We're smoking crack right now. Why is everyone always calling me high or on crack or on something? They not beating JD? They can beat JD. They can do it. What's this non-belief in Zeta? I just think they get outclassed by Twisted Minds and Crazy Raccoon. If if Tom can release a video, SSG can win the Esports World Cup. Now that's the type of belief. So the TLDR of it is probably just macro based. I gotta go shopping real soon, so I think that'll do it for now. And I'll be on probably kind of early tomorrow, and we can talk obviously more because there's a lot to talk about. I'll do my fantasy as well. But I probably got like 10 minutes now if anyone wants to throw questions or anything like that, and then I'll find someone to raid and send you over to. What time do I stream tomorrow? So the games all start at 11 a.m. and I might be on sometime between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. BST. Who scores better in fantasy, Slay or UV? Fuck. What is for dinner? I'll come back to that one, Willow, because I don't know. I don't know, man. Fuck. SSG's the scary one because they could kind of go. Could they go out in 2? Wait, hold on. Could they go out in 2? Sorry, this is text on text now. Nah, they couldn't go out in 2. Yeah, maybe. I think UV. I think UV probably. Probably UV. For dinner, I've got to go shopping first, but then we're going to have like some pork. No, wait. We have pork chops? Maybe something different. We're going to have sausages, some like spicy chorizo sausages, then maybe some couscous. Maybe like some hummus or something, maybe a bit of salad with it. And then but I've also got to make a pasta bake because I need lunches for the next few days. Does higher seed get both map pick and first ban or only one? Both. Or they get they get the choice of if they want first ban or second ban. But yeah, they'll get both. What are you saying? Here's one for you. I've got a question for you. I'm turning the tables. You weren't ready for that. Was this good? I mean, like, I know it was like a bit rambly at times and disjointed, and maybe could have been more organized. Like, I thought about maybe doing this as a video, then I figured I didn't really have time to make a video, so I'd kind of just get on, and maybe this is more interactive. No, terrible, thanks. Was this, like, is this the sort of thing you'd want, like, maybe every major tournament or something? Could turn it into a video. I think if I was going to do it as a video, like, it would be better not doing it on stream, because I think the stream ends up being, you know, it's like more tangents and different stuff, and I sort of like, I'll start one thought, then get a bit distracted, I'll read out a start, or, you know, and then I'll sort of miss the thought or something. Like, I feel like, especially because it's 16 teams, it need to be a bit tighter. Thanks. Yeah, I know, right, Rain? Preview before and review after to compare. Maybe. Well, I think I'll see how next week goes, because also I kind of want to do more of the content I always talk about, where I talk about more like actual watch the game, you know, watch the replays type content. But also next week is probably going to be like my first chance at like a sort of proper week off. Since the start of February. So I really want that. And even then my weekend is very much going to be, I also sort of need to get the boot camp ready, because after that I'm going to the boot camp as well, and then I'm going to fucking Korea. So like if I don't take that week, we're back in the, you know, the cycle. Big fan. Okay, that's good. As someone who can never get power levels of teams despite watching most matches, I find it helpful. Yeah, I feel like one thing that Overwatch esports lacks a lot of the time is, and I think this is like the sort of thing we could even maybe do more on stream, like me and Max or something. But because me and Max end up doing long streams where we do a lot of casting, and that's very that's like very involved or mentally demanding. I feel like we don't do a lot of punditry type stuff. Like this whole stream was basically punditry, or like a punditry podcast of just sort of ideas and thoughts, and here's why I think a team things to watch out for, things not to watch out for teams, everything like that. If you look at what you predicted, think about this tournament, what do you identify as your most likely blind spot? I think the one I feel immediately the most shaky about is this Dallas over Falcons one. I think I feel really, that's the one I feel most uncertain about. I think one thing I think I'm probably overthinking or maybe overvaluing is the comp specifics. You know, like when I'm thinking about these matchups, I'm trying to think, well, you know, Dallas will be playing this comp and they might not have seen it and that'll be hard to deal with. Will Falcons be able to adapt? And while some of that is all relevant and true, I feel modern Overwatch now is so much more... Everyone's swapping all the time. It's so much more versatile in terms of who's playing what and who's doing this. That some of that, everything I'm talking about might just not be as true, or kind of it will be true what comps they end up on, but it's too hard to predict and maybe not actually a useful tool for predicting, because I'm getting like basically just getting zoned in on like a specific matchup or something that I think goes one way when actually the game's going to inevitably be more complicated and everything going on. Are people not sharing scrim codes anymore? I don't really know. I presume there's a decent amount of sharing. Yes, CD. There is a roster change period and a budget increase from groups to playoffs. It will be free transfers. You can still make more, but you will incur like a 15-point penalty per additional one. But you get free for free. Free for free, you know. And you get +5 budget. And that will be available after the last game on Friday. So you've got from Friday evening, when the last game of groups happens, until the first game of playoffs on Saturday morning to make all of your changes. This was just my bracket prediction. I just presumed everyone in Korea knows. Yeah, I think I think they'll sort of know what they're playing, but there's always like a slight difference between knowing what they're playing and having a rep against it. I guess like a theory will only take you so far type argument. Am I lowered down in my camera? I've just looked. I've just opened up my OBS. Am I lowered down in my camera? I feel like outrageously low, no? That's a bit more like it. I am slouching a bit, but I wasn't slouching that much. I thought you were just shorter. Dallas got pretty lucky for the section. Yeah, I think what's true for both, if I can have the right button, what's true for Liquid and Dallas is, for Liquid and Dallas, I think their best way to qualify is to win both games in the upper bracket. I think if they both get sent to the lower bracket, they have a really hard time making it past. Because as much as Group A is more difficult, what's actually true is this top half of Group A is really difficult. But if you're in the lower half of a Group A thing, you only run into these top half of the bracket teams if you go to losers bracket because of the flip. So if you just win all your games and you'll be all right, says expert analyst. But I think if Team Liquid or Dallas drop into that lower bracket, we might be in a situation where neither of them make it, right? No, not really heard anything about the partner team skins this year. All right, who do you want to go to? T1 or TM? TM. Kiwi? Alvocate? Are they still playing? No way. I say no way now, like, is it just for length of a Kiwi? All right, I send you guys to Kiwi. Thank you very much. Appreciate everyone watching.
You
I know
guys
it was
played?
very...
I don't actually remember.
Chill out, Kiwi. I know it was a very different type of stream today, but yeah, well, mine's gone to the Esports World Cup, so Alvi will be covering all week. But yeah, no, thank you very much everyone for watching. Hope you enjoyed the show. I'll be back on kind of early before the Esports World Cup, because everything we just talked about, all the hypotheticals, all the figuring out, all the if, buts, maybes, what comps will be played, who will be good, who will be strong, we find out. We start to find out tomorrow. By this time tomorrow, we would have seen almost every team play. So it's all very exciting, all very cool. I will send you to Kiwi for now, and I'll see you bright and early tomorrow. Yes, Mama Hamster, Zeta 1. Impeccable timing. All right, thanks very much, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll send you to Kiwi. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Get some rest, because there's plenty of Overwatch to watch tomorrow. That one.